Chapter 794, Emperor's Flow Liquid, by Ling's Breakthrough in Foundation Establishment _4". That's right, before I met the young master, I had never seen a true spirit-level demon beast. But in the world, one can still find some demon beasts with a diluted true spirit bloodline, or even members of the human race. I once heard that in the central continent, there are several major families with the true spirit bloodline flowing through their veins, known as true spirit families. Bai Ling might have a diluted true spirit bloodline in her body, but due to a mutation in the bloodline, she reverted to an ancestral form, thereby awakening some of the power of the bloodline. Hong Lian voiced her guess. True spirit families? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised when he heard this. He could understand that some demon beasts possess a bit of the true spirit bloodline, but how could humans also have the true spirit bloodline running through their veins? He knew that the more powerful the demon beast and the higher the grade of its bloodline, the harder it was to transform. For a true spirit to transform, it would be extremely difficult. Moreover, it was already difficult for humans and the demon race to conceive offspring, let alone conceive without transformation. The mere thought of it was unimaginable. Are these true spirit families the descendants of humans and true spirits? Lu Changxing curiously asked. I'm not sure about that. I've only heard of the existence of such true spirit families. Hong Lian said softly. Alright, as long as it's not a bad thing, it doesn't matter. Search *the novel _fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing didn't pay too much attention to the issue of the true spirit bloodline. His examination with Hong Lian was also based on her previous statement that in Bai Ling's case, every time she made a breakthrough in a major realm, some of her bloodline's power would awaken, resulting in certain changes. It might be possible to discover something. After Bai Ling completed her transformation, Lu Changxing noticed that her blood had taken on a bit more of a platinum luster. He couldn't help but think that if the power of her bloodline continued to awaken, Bai Ling's blood, meridians, and bones might completely turn white. Brother, Bai Ling looked at Lu Changxing with her clear, peach-shaped eyes that were misty, shy, joyful, and expectant, and her voice was sweet and meltingly soft. Logically, after cultivating the Black Dragon Codex and breaking through to Foundation Establishment, her transformation should convey a sense of majesty. But Bai Ling became even more innocently charming. She seemed ethereal and not of this world, yet every smile and gesture revealed seductive allure, enchanting and captivating, stirring one's mental spirit. Lu Changxing knew that Bai Ling's bloodline power was more powerful than the changes brought about by the cultivation technique. Even the cultivation technique adapted its flow to accommodate the power of her bloodline. Seeing her pure yet desirous face eagerly looking forward to his praise and reward, Lu Changxing enveloped her moist and tender lips without hesitation. His palm caressed her crystal clear and silky smooth skin that seemed flawless and as if it might burst with the gentlest touch. Although Bai Ling's scales had taken on more of a platinum color, the texture did not change. In fact, they felt even silkier and smoother to the touch. Along with the rustling sound, a graceful figure with a perfect shape emerged, wrapped in what seemed like a platinum scale armor. Her body was filled with demonic charm and primal instinct, inexplicably heating one's blood. Lu Changxing paid no mind to the existence of Hong Lian and the ancient beast taming charm. Initially, when he made his move on Su Ruyan, he would have Ling Zixiao or Lu Miaoyan take the ancient beast taming charm and leave. But later he gave it some thought and decided Hong Lian was not an outsider. Since she was there, why not? Doing all sorts of things to her chosen destined girl in front of Grandpa seemed to have its own unique flavor. Lu Changxing embraced Bai Ling's incredibly seductive waist. Only one who had experienced it could know how supple, slender, and tight it was, and how breathtaking it could be. Accompanied by a heart-stirring, soft moan, the flawless body undulated, and the platinum scales began to suffuse with a hint of pink, appearing dreamlike and illusory. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 795, The Dao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jianghu Sect. _1 Bai Ling's breakthrough to Foundation Establishment did not have a significant impact on Bai Lake Mountain. Or to put it another way, only Lu Changxing, Ling Zixiao, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaoyun, and a few others were aware of this development. Few knew that this girl, who usually seemed timid and preoccupied with her cultivation, lacking a sense of presence, had now become a foundation-building great cultivator. Search * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After Bai Ling's breakthrough, Lu Changxing assigned her the task of nurturing the Blackwater Dragon's spirit weapon. She was to find Hong Lian every 10 to 15 days and use the mana of the Black Dragon to nurture the Dao soldier. Inside the cave dwelling of Changxing Hall, extract. Lu Changxing looked at the imperial syrup in the system space, and his mental spirit stirred slightly. Instantly, a basin-sized stone trough appeared. It contained a viscous liquid with a golden sheen. This liquid looked as if it had life, sometimes shining brilliantly like flowing light and at times moving quietly like a stream, emanating a rich scent of vitality. So this is the imperial syrup. Lu Changxing examined the imperial syrup in the stone trough. Through the system, he knew that this substance was formed gradually when the essence of the moonlight during the Gingshan night converged with the milky fluid from millennium clock stones. The basin of imperial syrup before him was incredibly rare, requiring at least hundreds of years to form. Speaking of which, I wonder if this imperial syrup has any effect on Zi Shao's dragon roar physique, Lu Changxing murmured to himself, thinking of Ling Zixiao's condition. Ling Zixiao's dragon roar physique was currently quite stable. But as she began cultivation, the issue was bound to re-emerge. Though it was possible to suppress it by plundering the origin source with the dragon invocation technique. From his previous hands-on experience, he knew the plundering was extraordinarily dangerous due to the potential backlash from the dragon roar origin. It had to be suppressed by some cold object, much like Nangong Mili's profound Yin jade liquid from before. It's best to store some as a precaution. After pondering for a moment, Lu Changxing took out a purple jade gourd and filled it with nearly half of the imperial syrup. Through the system, he knew humans could consume the imperial syrup to aid in mana recovery and cultivation level enhancement. However, the effects were not as substantial as the improvement it offered to demons, ghosts, and other malign beings. Since Shiyu has a moonlight spirit body, maybe this imperial syrup has some benefits for her too, Lu Changxing thought of Xiao Xie's condition, contemplating to himself. By this count, the amount of imperial syrup he had might not be enough to share. Sigh. He exhaled and called out, Mount Sumeru. Master. The ethereal voice of Mount Sumeru echoed. Although Lu Changxing was in the confined space of his cave dwelling, as long as he was in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven, Mount Sumeru could be everywhere. As soon as Lu Changxing called out, it could immediately sense and respond. This imperial syrup should be helpful to you, take it. If this amount of imperial syrup is enough for you to nurture an accompanying spirit plant, then try to cultivate a third rank one, Lu Changxing directed Mount Sumeru. No matter what, he thought to maximize the effects and use it to improve Mount Sumeru. Thank you, Master. Mount Sumeru's voice was soft and pure in its gratitude, lacking any emotion of coquetry. This imperial syrup, mainly used to enhance spirituality for demon beasts and plants, I wonder if it can help Mount Sumeru make a notable improvement in its spirituality, Lu Changxing suddenly thought. As a true spirit-level demon plant, Mount Sumeru's spirituality was exceptionally high. But compared to humans, it still lacked emotion. He then saw a ray of golden light showering down, illuminating the imperial syrup, which Mount Sumeru began to absorb slowly. After finishing the task, he didn't continue his seclusion but went out to spend time with his wives and children. Now that Ling Zixiao's injuries had largely healed and Bai Ling, a new combatant, had joined the family, he planned to visit the Jianghu sect in Yu country with Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan after some time to see his children who lived far away in that nation. In Yu country, at the Jianghu sect. The Jianghu sect was currently hosting a sword trial festival, and it was bustling beneath the main peak. Many outer sect and inner sect disciples were participating or waiting, and countless disciples who weren't competing also gathered to spectate. Even if they weren't competing, joining the excitement and witnessing other cultivators' battles could broaden their horizons and yield gains. Hu hu hu, peng peng peng, chong chong chong, on 3 spell formation arenas, each dozens of feet wide, disciples were engaged in combat. Above each arena, executors and elders sat high up, ready to intervene in case participants couldn't hold back and accidentally caused a fatality during the fray. After all, such festivals were designed to temper disciples, and naturally, they didn't wish to see casualties. Su Rong is too hesitant and indecisive, and she's going to lose, Lu Qingshan and his sister Lu Qingzhu, seated at the competitors' area of Tianyuan Peak, commented as they watched the central arena. Huh. Lu Qingzhu perked up upon hearing her brother's words, watched the central arena intently, and tilted her head, unsure of how he had reached his conclusion. However, shortly thereafter, a female cultivator of modest beauty dressed in Jianghu sect robes flew backward and crashed against the arena's spell formation barrier following her opponent's offensive. How about that, little Zhu, was I not right? Lu Qingshan wore a slightly smug expression. Brother is amazing. Lu Qingzhu looked surprised before vigorously nodding her head, eliciting hearty laughter from Lu Qingshan. Tianji Peak's Zhao Guang wins. At that moment, the high-up executor in charge of supervising the competition announced the result. The youth known as Zhao Guang bowed to the air above before stepping down from the arena. The fallen female cultivator was taken to receive medical attention as per the arrangement by the medics at the side of the stage. Jinyun Peak's Yin Yen, Tianyuan Peak's Lu Qingshan. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 796, The Dao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jianghu Sect. The presiding executor held the jade scroll, announcing without any expression on his face. Little Bamboo, watch your brother perform. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingshan stood up and walked towards the arena. Brother, be careful. Lu Qingzhu said with concern, making a cheering gesture. Ha, don't worry. Lu Qingshan, with a carefree expression, playfully tousled his little sister's hair, messing up her smooth locks. Though the siblings were only half a month apart in age, Lu Qingshan seemed much older. That's Lu Qingshan, Tianyuan Elder's personal disciple. I've heard that Brother Lu has a Gingjin body constitution, but I don't know whether it's true or not. What a pity that he's only at the 6th level energy refinement, while Yin Yen is at the 8th level energy refinement, and comes from the renowned Yin family. He probably has a lot of fine magic artifacts, even talismans on him. For Lu Qingshan to have fought his way to this round at 6th level energy refinement shows his strength should not be underestimated. As a disciple of Elder Tianyuan, Lu Qingshan mustn't lack in those either. I once heard that Jinyun Peak and Tianyuan Peak don't get along well. I wonder if Yin Yen will strike with full force. Many onlookers turned their gazes toward Lu Qingshan and Yin Yen, who had stepped into the ring, chattering among themselves. At this point in the sword trial tournament, the preliminaries had passed and anyone who had made it this far possessed certain skills. Moreover, as one of only 2 disciples from Tianyuan Peak in the Jianghu sect, Lu Qingshan had a bit of a reputation. As soon as he appeared, he caused a stir among the cultivators present. So you're Lu Qingshan, I've heard that when you were at 4th level energy refinement, you had the audacity to draw your sword against our Peak's disciples? Quite brave indeed. To show my respect, I'll take you seriously and hope you won't disappoint me. Yin Yen, dressed in the uniform of the Jianghu sect disciples, was tall and imposing, holding a jade-quality sword in his hand. The sword gleamed with an ever-changing light, at times dazzling, at times revealing its sharpness. Lu Qingshan responded indifferently with a light hum. The battle commenced only after the presiding executor overhead declared the beginning of the match. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Yin Yen formed a hand seal, causing a windless fog to rise on the platform, shrouding him in a thick mist. His flying sword disappeared into the mist and, accompanied by the rolling fog, attacked Lu Qingshan. Clang! A golden, dazzling magical sword appeared in Lu Qingshan's hand. He unleashed a sword chi that blocked the jade-quality flying sword coming at him through the air. Clang clang clang! the mist churned, and the flying sword emitted invisible sword chi that assailed Lu Qingshan, who kept parrying with his magical sword. Ha! Just then, Lu Qingshan let out a long howl, employing both the lion's roar skill and the sonic waves of spiritual power from his martial practices, sweeping out in a burst that shook Yin Yen. Sizzle sizzle. In an instant, Lu Qingshan's movement stirred up a breeze underfoot. Like a sharp blade of light, he tore through the air currents, closed in on Yin Yen, and unleashed a fiercely charged sword chi. Not good. Facing Lu Qingshan's onslaught, Yin Yen was startled and hurriedly maneuvered his flying sword to defend, activating his body-protecting chi barrier. He quickly pulled a talisman from inside his robe and activated it. In an instant, a golden light barrier formed around him. A superior-grade talisman, the Golden Light Barrier Talisman. That's really bullying. He's already higher in cultivation and now he's using a superior-grade talisman. It's nice to have money. If my family were rich enough to give me a few talismans, I wouldn't have been eliminated in the preliminaries. But Lu Qingshan's recent move, it seems like he also practices body refinement. No, it's not body refinement. Given his moves and sword techniques, they bear traces of mundane martial arts. I reckon he has trained in secular martial practices. Many of the surrounding disciples who witnessed the scene began discussing aloud. Go. Having secured his position with the Golden Light Barrier Talisman, Yin Yen manipulated hand seals and continued to send his magical sword at Lu Qingshan. Golden Light Barrier Talisman, as if a Golden Light Bodyguard charm would be more appropriate for you. Lu Qingshan sneered, his magical sword parried the incoming magical sword. Then he howled, "Break for me." In that moment, the spiritual power in his body roared to life, spreading out as he broke through from 6th level energy refinement to 7th level energy refinement. His golden magical sword shone brilliantly, its edge keen and fierce, tearing open the golden light barrier in front of him. This. Yin Yen was shocked and immediately pulled out 2 more talismans from his chest, intending to activate them. But in that instant, the golden light barrier and body-protecting chi barrier around him shattered. A golden magical sword was placed at his throat, sending a chill down his spine as if pain was about to ensue. He said incredulously, "How is this possible? How could you break through the golden bell shield talisman and the body-protecting chi barrier so quickly?" Because I've made a breakthrough, the energy refinement late stage also has its differences. Don't use your own strength to measure mine, and remember to use a golden light bodyguard charm next time. Lu Qingshan's expression was indifferent as he spoke calmly. Tian Yuan Peak, Lu Qingshan, wins. The expressionless executor in the air showed a hint of surprise, nodding slightly before announcing the result. SSS, a breakthrough in the heat of battle? And from middle stage to energy refinement late stage at that. 6th level defeated 8th level? He must have been on the verge of a breakthrough for a while but chose not to. Now, utilizing his full strength naturally led to overcoming the bottleneck. This is very risky. If he hadn't been able to break through Yin Yan's defenses just now and had been defeated and injured, it might have affected his meridians. I've heard that he has a Gengjin body constitution and practices sword techniques, following the path of sword cultivators. This must be the confidence of a sword cultivator, refining his blade through battle after battle, hence revealing the sword heart edge. TSK, Brother Lu really is bold. S.E.A. the novel, F. Ire. And a website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Many in the audience voiced their comments upon seeing this battle, and many would remember the name Lu Qingshan. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 797, The Tao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jianghu Sect. Xiao Zhuer, how did brother perform? Lu Qingshan stepped down from the arena, saying with a chuckle. Brother is so amazing, he actually broke through to the 7th level energy refinement, and right on the arena during the battle. Lu Qingzhu said with a face full of happy admiration. Although she started cultivating a bit later than Lu Qingshan due to the issue with her foundation, she was still at the 5th level energy refinement and needed quite some time to break through to the 6th level. Seeing her brother break through to the energy refinement late stage, she felt even happier than if she had made the breakthrough herself. Sir the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hehe, as an unparalleled genius, it's quite normal to break through during combat. Lu Qingshan said with a proud look on his face. Then, looking at the arena's prizes, he said somewhat regretfully, it's a pity that I'm only at the 7th level energy refinement. It might be a bit difficult to take first place. This martial arts tournament was for Qi refinement disciples to compete, but even though he was confident in fighting above his level, he was not certain against some at the peak of energy refinement. Brother is already very powerful. At the next sword trial tournament, brother will surely take first place. Lu Qingzhu said earnestly. In her heart, her brother was a genius, extremely formidable. Hehe, this time brother will win a foundation establishment spirit object for you, and next time he'll win a foundation establishment elixir. When we both break through to foundation establishment and go home, Dad, Mom, and Grandpa will be totally surprised. Lu Qingshan said with a grinning face. Only when facing his sister, the crane fairy of Tianyuan Peak, did he show such a playful and joyful demeanor. Lu Qingzhu nodded in agreement, unable to help but miss her parents, auntie, and grandfather at home. However, looking at her brother before her, she suppressed her longing and said softly, Brother, you just had a breakthrough. You should go back and consolidate your cultivation realm. Atop Baiyun Peak. Tall and handsome, a majestic ancient tree glistens with gold and jade, brimming with vigorous vitality. Mount Sumeru, is this sufficient? Lu Changxing planted a shoot resembling gold and jade, swirling with vibrant green vitality, next to the Mount Sumer tree king and asked aloud. With the Emperor's fluid, Mount Sumer's strength could achieve a small increase without expending a large amount of live's origin source. It could also nurture a companion spirit plant without excessive consumption of its life force. It's enough, Master, the pure, soft voice of Mount Sumer responded. It indicated that as long as it nurtured the shoot patiently, in a few years, it would become its companion spirit plant and ascend to a 3rd-rank heavenly and earthly spirit plant. However, this companion spirit plant's abilities were limited. It only had the effect of cleansing the mind, focusing the spirit, and suppressing the heart demon. Alright, a 3rd-rank heavenly and earthly spirit plant is enough, its power doesn't really matter. Lu Changxing said upon hearing this. His main goal now was to acquire a heavenly and earthly spirit plant for his wife to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. As for the abilities of this spirit plant, they seemed secondary to him. Moreover, the abilities of this companion spirit plant mainly stem from the Mount Sumer tree king. As long as Mount Sumeru is willing to continue nurturing it with its origin source, the future is promising. Just then, Lu Changxing suddenly sensed a surge of mana and cultivation level entering his body out of nowhere. He knew that one of his children had made a breakthrough. Even though this cultivation level was still somewhat weak for him, it was stronger than all the previous ones he had experienced. One of the children has broken through to the 7th level energy refinement, but which one? Chuanjin wouldn't be so quick. Pingan just broke through to the 6th level. Lu Yun is still at the 5th level energy refinement. Lu Changxing pondered in his heart. He then opened the system panel to check the current status of his older children. After a moment, he knew which child had made the breakthrough. Name, Lu Qingshan, lifespan, 20/99, talent, 6th grade spiritual root, Gingjin body constitution, middle grade spiritual body, cultivation, 7th level energy refinement, ability, sword Dao compatibility, 52%, as expected, it's Qingshan, that's right, with his Gingjin body constitution, cultivating metal attribute cultivation techniques. His cultivation speed is not inferior to those with high-grade spiritual roots. Now that he's broken through to the 7th level energy refinement, it's quite normal. Lu Changxing murmured to himself. Although this speed was somewhat slower than Bai Ling's. But among his current children, he's probably far ahead. It's time to prepare for a trip to Jianghu sect in Yu country. Lu Changxing took a deep breath and exhaled softly. He immediately found Ling Zixiao, Lu Miaoyun, Lu Miaoga, and Lu Miaohuan to talk about going to Jianghu sect in Yu country. My lord, rest assured and go, the mistress and Miaoyun will look after the home, Ling Zixiao said upon hearing this. Lu Changxing nodded, feeling very reassured with the two women at home. Then he said to Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan, I will first write a letter to Shiyu, to inquire how long before the Qingyun sect spiritual vessel heads to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. The journey from Bai Lake Mountain to Jianghu sect in Yu country was quite distant. Hence, Lu Changxing planned to take the Qingyun sect spiritual vessel to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Then from Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he would take the Jianghu sect spiritual vessel to Yu country Jianghu sect. Lu Miaohuan, upon hearing that they were finally going to visit their children in Jianghu sect, showed an excited and joyful expression on her face. Lu Miaoya's eyes also revealed a look of longing, eager to travel to Jianghu sect and see their children. With the upcoming trip to Jianghu sect to visit their children, Lu Miaohuan was very happy. She pulled her sister along to ask Lu Changxing for a boat ride on the lake. The three of them didn't use paddles, but let the boat drift on its own. At this moment, a sudden storm with fierce winds and torrential rains descended upon Bai Lake Mountain. Facing the unexpected storm and the lake surface whipped into waves, the exquisitely decorated boat drifting of its own accord remained unaffected, steadily sailing through the tempest. So much time might have passed before the storm and the furious waves subsided. The sunlight pierced the clouds. The air after the rain was extraordinarily fresh. The scenery around the lake was exceptionally beautiful. A delicate jade hand lifted the curtain on the boat's door. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 798, The Tao Companion Ceremony, Heading to Jianghu Sect. _4 Bright and gentle sunlight streamed into the cramped room, the breeze was gentle, and the water rippled. So much water, Lu Changxing, observing the bunk bed drenched by an unknown source, either rain or lake water, waved his mana and dried it out. Afterward, he held his delicate wife in his arms and admired the beautiful scenery outside, feeling refreshed and uplifted. Through this lake tour, he could sense his wife's joy at the prospect of visiting their children at Jianghu sect. My husband, how do you think Qing Shan is doing with his cultivation at Jianghu sect? Do you think he might? Lu Miaohuan, draped in a thin black gauze garment, her beautiful black hair cascading down her back like satin, gazed out at the lake scenery. Even though she knew her son had a nascent soul immortal as his master, she remained worried about him being mistreated or bullied during his cultivation journey, given his mischievous and troublemaking character and the fact that she hadn't seen him. Rest assured, Qing Shan not only possesses a Gingjin body constitution, but he also has a nascent soul immortal as a master. His cultivation in Jianghu sect naturally goes smoothly, Lu Changxing reassured her with a warm voice, his arms around her slender waist. He, too, was eager to know how his children had fared at Jianghu sect over the years. Qing Shan and Qing Zhu would be quite surprised to learn that both their father and sister have broken through to foundation establishment, Lu Miaohuan mused with a smile. Who could have predicted the earth-shaking changes in their family in just a mere 10 years? 10 days later, Zhao Qingxing came to Bai Lake Mountain. She told Lu Changxing that the spiritual vessel heading from Qingyun Market to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City would leave in 4 months. The journey would take approximately 3 months, and if Lu Changxing wished, she could purchase the vessel tickets on his behalf. Given Lu Changxing's status as the mountain master of Bai Lake Mountain, he could certainly buy the vessel tickets himself. But it would require him to make the trip and book in advance at Qingyun Market. Qingxing, thank you for the trouble, Lu Changxing said as he nodded. With Xiao Xie still out on a mission and not yet back, having Zhao Qingxing buy the spiritual vessel tickets would be much more convenient. He then discussed the matter of the cultivator couple ritual with Zhao Qingxing. Though it wasn't ideal to draw attention now, he and Zhao Qingxing had become fellow cultivators, and he naturally wished to give their relationship a proper standing. Moreover, since he was about to head to Jianghu sect in Yu country, which would take at least 2 to 3 years for the round trip, having Zhao Qingqing, a foundation-building great cultivator and disciple of an immortal sect, join the family would serve as a deterrent to surrounding clan powers. Sure, Zhao Qingqing cheerfully agreed. Being quite traditional, she had been hoping for a formal status that morning. But facing Lu Changxing, she felt somewhat inferior, believing she wasn't worthy of such a man and could only be a concubine, unsure of how to raise the matter. Now that Lu Changxing had taken the initiative to propose a cultivator couple ritual with her, she was naturally overjoyed. Immediately, Lu Changxing asked his wife Lu Miaoyan to arrange a cultivator couple ritual. Upon learning that Zhao Qingqing and her husband were to be joined as a cultivator couple, Lu Miaoyan was merely slightly taken aback, but not surprised. After all, as a wife who had accompanied Lu Changxing on his path, she had anticipated this day would come once Zhao Qingqing became a guest elder in their home. Considering they were to board the spiritual vessel for the Azure Phoenix Immortal City in 4 months, Lu Changxing set the date for the ritual 3 months later, so it wouldn't be too rushed or simplistic. After assigning these tasks, Lu Changxing spent the following days diligently cultivating. This included Su Ruyan, who in the early years was used by Hong Lian for her Buddhist alchemy purposes, formations, and other matters, so Lu Changxing had refrained from having her conceive. Mainly because once she had a child and became a mother, Lu Changxing felt he would become soft-hearted. Over the years, Su Ruyan had performed well, and Lu Changxing felt it was time. If she continued to be obedient and well-behaved upon his return, he would give her a heaven-rank demon beast, and that would be it, with her bearing 5, 6, 7, or 8 children. After all, Su Ruyan had long reached the peak of qi refinement and was ready to undertake foundation establishment. But her cultivation had virtually been stalled for years due to being imprisoned at Bai Lake Mountain. Although it was relatively difficult for foundation establishment cultivators to have children, with the system's bloodline enhancement, it wasn't too difficult for Lu Changxing. In this way, with Lu Changxing's efforts, in just a short month, 3 of his concubines were pregnant, including Su Ruyan. Seeing Su Ruyan pregnant, an idea popped into Lu Changxing's head. What if during his efforts, Hong Lian possessed Su Ruyan? Or, if Hong Lian possessed Su Ruyan during her pregnancy to help nourish the fetus, would the child be considered Hong Lian's? In that case, would the child's talent be comparatively better? However, Lu Changxing just thought about it and didn't bring it up. During this time, Lu Changxing also didn't neglect Bai Ling. Although it was extremely difficult for her to get pregnant because of bloodline issues, Lu Changxing believed in the saying, "Heaven rewards the diligent, man will conquer nature, and where there's a will there's a way." Sar the novel, F. Iyer. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed, and Lu Changxing and Zhao Qingqing's couple ceremony was held as scheduled. During these 3 months, 5 of Lu Changxing's minor wives, including Su Ruyan, became pregnant. As for Bai Ling, one could only say that she tried hard, but it was indeed very difficult. However, Lu Changxing did not lose a trace of fighting spirit, planning to try again when the time was right, determined to eventually make Bai Ling pregnant. On this day, Bai Lake Mountain was very lively and festive. The Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, the Bai family of Hundred Birds Lake, the Jing family of Wugong Ridge, the Yushui Su family, the Ji family of Shaojing Mountain, and other family powers all sent people to congratulate and give gifts. After all, the union of 2 foundation establishment cultivators was not a minor matter to these neighboring family powers, and it deserved high attention. Hong Yi and Han Lin also came to attend the celebration. Besides them, some Qingyun sect disciples, Zhao Qingqing's friends, and fellow sect members were present. I heard that Lu ancestor hadn't taken any concubines for a long time. I did not expect that once he did, it would be such an astonishing event, marrying a foundation establishment great cultivator from the Qingyun sect. A friend of mine's grandson's niece became a concubine to Lu ancestor. I heard that Lu ancestor has also been diligently working these years, having children born every year in his family. For Lu Mountain Lord, I really admire him completely, to have 3 foundation establishment partners in his household. And all 3 are not ordinary. One is a 2nd-grade talisman master, one is a 2nd-grade array master, and one is a disciple of the immortal sects. Compared to Lu Mountain Lord's talisman path, I admire his inclinations towards men and women even more. Ah, truly, comparing oneself to others will only make you die of envy. Many of those who came to attend the ceremony expressed their feelings out loud for Lu Changxing, their expressions a mix of envy and jealousy. For them, even after breaking through to foundation building and becoming a foundation establishment great cultivator, marrying a foundation establishment partner was very hard. Not to mention someone like Lu Changxing, who had 3 high-quality foundation establishment partners. After all, upon becoming a foundation establishment cultivator, one is an ancestor of a region, who would willingly share. Lu brother is indeed worthy. Hong Yi and Han Lin were seated at the same table and were full of emotions upon witnessing this scene. Even though Hong Yi had previously made some guesses, seeing this scene, the two holding the ceremony and becoming partners, they were still filled with emotions. They thought that if this was the situation with Xiao Qingqing's couple ceremony, what if Lu Changxing and Xiao Xia from the Qingyun sect, the famous Shiyu fairy, were to become partners? Would it not cause a small sensation throughout the entire Qingyun region? However, for Brother Lu to become partners with Xiao Daoist, I'm afraid he has to pass the hurdle of her master, Kaiyun True Immortal. Hong Yi pondered silently. Xiao Qingqing was just an ordinary disciple of the Qingyun sect, and there would be no constraints in this respect. But with core disciples and true inheritors like Xiao Xia, the sect valued them highly, and there would be certain constraints on behavior, such as in choosing a partner. So, this is Lu ancestor, indeed as the rumors described, handsome as an immortal. I heard that Lu ancestor is not only the lord of a mountain, a second-tier top-level talisman master, but also so handsome. I really want to marry him. Yes, even if I were to be a servant or a maid, would be willing. To become a maid of Lu ancestor, one must at least have a middle-grade spiritual root, if only I had been born 10 or 20 years earlier. I heard that in the early years when Lu ancestor was at Qingzhou Mountain, he often took concubines from outside. One look at Lu Mountain Lord ruins a lifetime. During the ceremony, many young girls who came with their elders to attend the ceremony and with certain motives, upon seeing Lu Changsheng's handsome and elegant demeanor, felt their hearts fluttering and lost. After all, a great cultivator who had wealth, looks, and power, who wouldn't love such a person? But for these young ladies, Lu Changxing mostly didn't even take notice anymore. The ceremony lasted for 3 days. After the ceremony ended, Lu Changxing accompanied Xiao Qingqing for another 3 days. Then, he took Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan and left by Lake Mountain, heading to Qingyun Market, preparing to take a spiritual vessel to visit his children at the Jianghu sect in Yu country. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 799. The Heavenly Demon Phoenix arrives at the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. _1 month later. Qingyun Market. That morning, Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan finished checking out of their lodgings and arrived at the northern gate of the market, waiting for the arrival of the spiritual vessel. It was the same location where Lu Changxing had boarded a spiritual vessel before. Many cultivators had come early to wait, and several Qingyun sect law enforcement cultivators were maintaining order. They didn't have to wait too long. A blue spiritual vessel, over 30 feet tall and 50 to 60 feet long, slowly descended from the high clouds, shrouded in the luminescence of a formation. This spiritual vessel looked the same as the one Lu Changxing had previously taken to Jiuxiao Immortal City. Presumably, they were all built by the Qingyun sect, specifically for long-distance transportation. So this is a spiritual vessel. Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoge were both looking at the vessel with expressions of surprise and curiosity. They had only ever heard about such large spiritual vessels and had never seen or ridden on one before. Yes, this is a large spiritual vessel. Its defenses are astonishing, and the cannons on board can unleash attacks comparable to those of core formation, Lu Changxing said softly. When he had boarded the vessel before, he happened to meet Xiahou Wuwa and witnessed the power of the ship firsthand. He knew that both defense and offense had reached the 3rd rank, a level that ordinary nascent soul cultivators would not dare confront. This made him very keen to get his hands on such a spiritual vessel. If a war were to break out between the two clans in the future, having such a vessel in the sky would be incredibly imposing. Soon, the spiritual vessel hovered in midair. Two Foundation establishment cultivators came out and announced loudly, "Everyone with a pass token, please queue up and board the spiritual vessel in an orderly fashion. Those who disturb the order will be disqualified from boarding." As their voices fell, a rainbow light fell from the vessel, transforming into successive steps. The law enforcement cultivators from the Qingyun sect kept order, directing everyone to board the ship in an orderly queue. This time, Lu Changsheng's ticket for the spiritual vessel was still for the second-tier category, a standard cabin. However, compared to the single room he had before, it was slightly larger, belonging to a multi-occupancy area, with about 30 square meters. Although it was a bit cramped for 3 people, they had no other choice given the limited options. After all, he had also stayed in a luxurious superior room before, which mainly had an additional supply of spiritual energy but wasn't much larger than a standard cabin. "I wonder how Qing Shan and Qing Zhu will react when they see us," Lu Miaohuan said with a joyful expression, looking out at the sea of clouds from the window. Such scenery was naturally nothing special to her. But since it was her first time riding a spiritual vessel, she felt a novelty similar to what Lu Changsheng had experienced before. "Hee, they will certainly be very surprised," Lu Changsheng replied. Seeing his wife so happy put him in a good mood too. Ever since they started preparing to go to Jinyang sect, Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan had been in very high spirits these past days. But it was Lu Miaohuan who wore her emotions on her sleeve, her moods clearly reflected on her face. He took out teaware, spiritual tea, and a spring of spiritual water from his storage ring and began to brew the tea. He then took out the spiritual origin pearl he had obtained from Xiahou Wuwa. Since the spirit vein at home had already been upgraded to a second-rank superior grade, he did not immediately give the pearl to Ling Zixiao to nourish the spirit vein. Now, it could be put to good use, allowing the 3 of them to cultivate simply and restore their spiritual energy after making talismans in the room. To make a trip to the Jin Kingdom, at the very least, they'll need to break through to core formation. At that moment, Lu Changsheng thought of another daughter, the one in the 5 Poisons cult in Jin Kingdom, whom he had never met. According to his expectations, to visit his daughter in the 5 Poisons cult, he would need the strength of core formation to be on the safe side. Based on his current cultivation speed, even without worrying about the coagulation crystal elixir or core formation spiritual objects, breaking through to core formation would take at least 20 years. 20 years, she would be all grown up by then, Lu Changsheng thought about his 7-year-old daughter. After another 20 years, she would have grown into an adult. And if his daughter went astray by then, it would be quite worrisome. After all, with Nangong Meili around, he truly wasn't concerned about his daughter being bullied or anything like that. His only worry was that under the guidance of the demon sect, the child might be led astray. Jin Kingdom, 5 Poisons cult. Inside a palace. Aha! A tall yet emaciated middle-aged man with a fierce face and bloodshot eyes screamed in agony and struggled vehemently. Yet, his limbs, clavicles, and vital areas such as his waist and hips were all pierced by chains, stripping him of his mana, causing only the clanking of the chains to be heard. "Mommy, is he in a lot of pain?" A 7 or 8-year-old girl dressed in a purple starry tulle dress, looking like an exquisite doll, watched the scene with some unease and asked with concern. Despite her young age, she possessed a graceful figure, with tender and fair skin, clear and radiant eyes, a straight and delicate nose, and soft, pink lips. Her long, luscious black hair, shining like the starry night, lay smooth and glistening down her back. "Hee, the gold silkworm goo will be ready in a few days, and then he won't be in pain anymore," replied an affectionate and stunningly beautiful woman as she fondly stroked her daughter's head, a gentle smile on her lips. Clad in a regal purple gown that showcased her enticing curves and breathtaking beauty, her incomparable face was beyond the words stunning or captivating. Ia the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Her peach blossom-like eyes, misty and alluring, were filled with a captivating charm that could steal one's soul. Her bright, luscious lips seemed to call for a kiss. Every inch of her body exuded an irresistible charm and seduction. The little girl bore a striking resemblance to her. Given the woman's peerless beauty, one could imagine how stunning the girl would grow up to be. So he will no longer be in pain, muttered Nangong Mili, perhaps noticing a tinge of pity in her daughter's eyes. With a light lift of her snow-white hand stained with the juice of the rouge plant, the man before her could no longer scream out in pain. The agonizing grimace on his face turned numb, leaving him expressionless. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 800, The Heavenly Demon Phoenix arrives at the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Does it not hurt anymore? Nangong Yao Yao led her own mother's slender jade arm, her eyes as pure as stars showing a hint of doubt, and always felt that the other party should still be in pain. After all, when she had been bitten by an insect, she had been in pain for so long, and her mother had been so worried. Now that an insect had burrowed into the other party, how could it not hurt? But of course, she believed what her own mother said. After a long while, a golden-skinned, silkworm-shaped goo insect drilled out from the mouth of a middle-aged man and flew into the little girl's hands. This scene appeared somewhat frightening. But the little girl was too cute, holding her mother's palm with an obedient face like an exquisitely carved white jade doll, which dispersed the terrifying atmosphere. Let's go, Yao Yao. Seeing the golden silkworm goo had finished feeding, Nangong Mili softly said to her daughter, leading her away. Master. Just as they returned to the hall, a girl dressed in a purple gown with delicate features and a dreamlike, ethereal, and misty temperament called out. Sister Xiao Chan. Nangong Yao Yao, seeing the girl in purple, immediately broke into a happy smile on her porcelain face, let go of her mother's hand, and ran to hug her. At Tianzhu Peak, aside from her mother and her personal maidservant, Meng Xiaochan took care of her most of the time, so the two were very close. It's just that Meng Xiaochan had gradually become busy, and she hadn't seen her for a long time. Yao Yao. Meng Xiaocan's face showed an alluring, chaotic smile, lifting the little girl into her arms. Then she kissed the little girl's soft and snowy cheek, inhaling the fragrant scent of her skin. She had always taken care of Nangong Yao Yao and loved the fragrance of her skin. Every time they were together, smelling this scent, she felt as if she was basking in the spring breeze, a comfortable closeness that reminded her of Lu Changsheng. Xiao Chan, did something bring you here this time? Nangong Mili looked at her disciple and daughter, a faint smile on her face. Reporting to Master, I've received news that Patriarch Sima of the Julian Mountain has passed away. Meng Xiaochan released Nangong Yao Yao and spoke out. Since Sima De has passed away, there is no need for Julian Mountain to exist anymore. You can take care of this matter. Nangong Mili said indifferently upon hearing this. Master, how should we deal with the 5 major clans of Julian Mountain? Meng Xiaochan inquired. Yao Yao, what should you do against bad people who don't obey? Nangong Mili moved forward, crouching down in a graceful posture, and asked her daughter with a smile. Of course, kill them. Nangong Yao Yao blinked, tilting her little head up, and spoke with an innocent face. 3 months later. This Myriad Beasts mountain range is still majestic and expansive. But looking at it this way, it shouldn't take long before we reach Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan stood on the deck of the spiritual vessel, overlooking the sea of clouds, looking down at the forest, mountains, and buildings below, scattered like stars in the sky. They could see a majestic mountain range with overlapping peaks, stretching far and wide, known as the famous Myriad Beasts Mountain Range. Myriad Beasts Mountain Range? Lu Miaohuan looked at the sea of clouds, somewhat puzzled. As Foundation establishment cultivators, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge could barely make out the scene below. She was only in the energy refinement late stage and could only see the surrounding sea of clouds, not making out the details below clearly. Hee hee. Lu Changsheng saw his wife's expression, and with a light lift of his hand, Mana formed a water mirror, displaying some of the general scenery below for Lu Miaohuan to see. Right then, a system notification sounded in Lu Changsheng's mind. Congratulations, host's offspring has reached 100 descendants. You are awarded 1 treasure drawing opportunity. 100 now? This child money really kept me waiting. Lu Changxing, hearing this system notification, was slightly startled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. Like with his own children, he had received child money in increments of 10 by 10. SEA the novel _fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But for his grandchildren, it was increasing by 50 each time. For the next child money, he suspected he would need to have 200 grandchildren before receiving it. Somewhat slack these days. I remember it only took a little over 4 years for the previous 50, but this time it actually took 5 years. Lu Changxing furrowed his brows, recalling that it had been almost 5 years since the last grandchild milestone with the system's child money. But a rate of 5 years is also not bad, it's acceptable. I just don't know how many grandchildren have a spiritual root, and if the system will again give child money. Lu Changxing pondered to himself. Although his Lu family now had 100 grandchildren, only 5 of them had a spiritual root. This ratio was still quite good, but since all 5 grandchildren had a lower grade spiritual root, it indeed made Lu Changxing sigh. He knew that for a genius to emerge in his family, it was still up to him, the Patriarch, to work hard. After spending some time on deck with his wife, enjoying the scenery, Lu Changxing returned to his room to start the treasure drawing. Having experienced the drawing many times, he could now remain unfazed during the process, without any unusual demeanor. As for why he didn't put off the drawing, it was mainly because he couldn't resist doing it as soon as it became available. System, draw. Lu Changxing silently commanded in his mind. A light red roulette wheel emerged, a streak of golden light appearing, spinning rapidly. After a moment, the golden light slowed down and stopped on pet, ding. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained a spiritual pet, Heavenly Demon Phoenix. The reward has been dispatched to the system space. The host can check it at any time. A divine bird pattern, bathed in gold and burning with crimson flames, emerged from the roulette, accompanied by a system notification. Pet, Heavenly Demon Phoenix. Last time, on the way to Zhoxiao Immortal City on the spiritual vessel, I drew the cold blue dark turtle. This time, on the way to Azure Phoenix Immortal City on the spiritual vessel, I drew the Heavenly Demon Phoenix, which is really, if you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 801, Heavenly Demon Phoenix, arrive at Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Changxing browsed the rewards, his eyebrows slightly raised, and a smile flashed across his face. SEA the novel fire, any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He had previously planned to give Su Ruyan a heaven-ranked demon beast. However, the only pets at home were the 9 netherhound, cold blue dark turtle, 6-winged golden silkworm, and abyssal ghoul blossom. Both the cold blue dark turtle and abyssal ghoul blossom already had owners. The 9 netherhound, being his first pet beast and the family's guard dog from years past, he naturally wouldn't give away. As for the remaining 6-winged golden silkworm that had advanced to 2nd rank, its combat power was decent, and he wasn't keen on giving it away either. So, he planned to give away whatever he drew next. But now, seeing that it was a flying spiritual pet related to the true spirit phoenix, Lu Changxing hesitated to give it away. However, it doesn't matter. To cultivate it to 2nd rank, 3rd rank, at least would take several decades, even hundreds of years. Granting Su Ruyan the contract, along with the cultivation of beast techniques, could allow this heavenly demon phoenix to grow at the fastest rate, Lu Changxing pondered silently. Then, his mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked towards the system space to check the specific details of this heavenly demon phoenix. Spiritual pet, Heavenly Demon Phoenix, grade, Heaven grade top quality, description, a heaven grade top quality bloodline demon beast with the true spirit heavenly phoenix lineage, capable of growing to peak strength in 500 years, reaching 4th rank, TSK, heaven grade top quality with true spirit heavenly phoenix lineage. Indeed extraordinary. Lu Changxing reviewed this spiritual pet's information and felt quite pleased. If nurtured, it could serve as his personal mount. Currently, he mainly relied on spirit boats and flying artifacts for travel. He was somewhat behind in terms of flying mounts. Although there was a green jade Luan bird at home, it was merely capable of flight and leaned towards being an ornamental spiritual pet. Now, if he took good care of this heavenly demon phoenix, he might have a fine flying mount in the future. Since it was not convenient now, and he lacked time, Lu Changxing didn't extract it from the system space, planning to arrange it once he returned to Bai Lake Mountain. Half a month later. Fellow Daoists, we have arrived at Azure Phoenix Immortal City. The green cloud spirit ship descended slowly in front of a majestic and towering immortal city, engulfed in green jade spiritual light. This Azure Phoenix Immortal City and Zhouxiao Immortal City are just so different. Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan observed the surrounding situation of the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Compared to Zhouxiao Immortal City, Azure Phoenix Immortal City was larger and more bustling. Pedestrians, cultivators of various appearances, were constantly coming and going, Daoists, knights, scholars, monks, barbarians. Momentarily, Lu Changxing felt as though he had arrived at a mundane city. The trio disembarked from the spirit ship and lined up at the city gate. Watching the bustling crowd, Lu Changxing noticed that nearly half of these people had faces shrouded with murderous, evil, or bloody auras. Their temperaments were completely at odds with his, Lu Miaoge's, and Lu Miaohuan's. Guards patrolling around the city gate in spiritual armor each bore an air of solemn killing intent. Is this the so-called sanctuary for loose cultivators? Lu Changxing muttered to himself, aware that most cultivators who came to Azure Phoenix Immortal City were loose cultivators. The aim of these loose cultivators in coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City was nearly all the same, to fight for a future. Qi refinement vying for foundation establishment vying for middle stage, late stage, even false core formation. Thus, most of these individuals relied on hunting demon beasts and exploring ancient ruins and dungeons for survival, battle-hardened from numerous fights. Feiyu has been living here for over 10 years, Lu Changxing thought of his good brother, Li Feiyu. He was always aware of the dangers of Azure Phoenix Immortal City. But now, having arrived at this loose cultivator's sanctuary and seeing the local conditions, he formed a clear realization. He understood that this so-called sanctuary for loose cultivators was actually a breeding ground. Each loose cultivator who could break through foundation establishment here and make a name for oneself was extraordinary. They had all fought their way through with blades and spears, incomparable to home-trained cultivators from families like Lu Yuanzhong or Bai Yunyang. I wonder how Feiyu is doing now, whether he's in the city. Lu Changxing took a deep breath and exhaled. He had come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City en route, taking the Jianyang sect spiritual vessel towards the Jianyang sect, naturally prepared to check on his good brother, Li Feiyu's condition. Seeing the city's situation and thinking about how his friend had struggled here for over a decade, his mood grew heavier. Especially since Azure Phoenix Immortal City had faced a century-rare beast tide a few years ago. At that time, he had lost communication with Feiyu, thinking something bad happened. Because the city gate had separate channels for Qi refinement and foundation establishment, it didn't take long before the three of them reached the front. Lu Changxing paid 30 spirit stones, received his identity jade, and entered Azure Phoenix Immortal City with his wife. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 802, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. Lu Changxing and his wife entered Azure Phoenix Immortal City and found a small courtyard in the inner city to temporarily reside in. This trip was destined for the Jianyang sect, and he naturally had it all planned. He made inquiries early and confirmed that the spiritual vessel of the Jianyang sect wouldn't depart for another 2 months. After settling down, Lu Changxing mentioned to Lu Miaoge that he was going to visit Li Feiyu's place in the outer city district to see if Li Feiyu was at home. Are you looking for Daoist Li? Daoist Li went out some days ago, and it will probably take quite a while for him to return. I'm not quite sure when, said the old neighbor, bowing to the handsome and distinguished-looking Lu Changxing in front of him. He didn't know whether Li Feiyu had offended the senior before him or what, but it had led to a visit. Lu Changxing nodded, knowing that a cultivator like Li Feiyu would mostly be enduring hardships in cultivation or be away for long periods. He then took out a middle-grade spirit stone and a communication talisman. If you see Daoist return, please notify my family at once. Of course, Senior. As soon as Daoist returns, I will notify you right away. The old man's eyes gleamed upon seeing the middle-grade spirit stone, as he said obsequiously, bowing. While not a huge sum for him, the middle-grade spirit stone was a windfall. Especially since he could make the acquaintance of a Foundation establishment cultivator through this. Even in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, a Foundation establishment cultivator was considered an important figure. Not to mention that the outer city district is basically filled with chi refining loose cultivators. Sigh. Lu Changxing shook his head and exhaled, walking out of the ancient streets. He was going to stay in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for 2 months and didn't know if he would be able to meet Li Feiyu. Just then, he saw a man in his 40s, tall and clad in black armor, coming toward him from the end of the alley. With sharp eyebrows and a fierce aura, yet with a scruffy beard and a countenance weary with age, he looked much more peaceful. The man stopped in his tracks upon seeing Lu Changxing, his expression surprised and uncertain, and he couldn't help but ask, Changxing? Lu Changxing recognized the familiar yet strange face and knew who he was. He didn't expect to lament not seeing him moments ago, only to turn the corner and encounter him. He immediately showed a smile and said, Feiyu, it has been a long time. Changxing, what brings you to Azure Phoenix Immortal City? Li Feiyu, hearing these words, knew he hadn't mistaken, and his face showed a look of surprise. But seeing Lu Changxing, who looked the same as he had 20 years ago, as if an immortal, Li Feiyu felt at a loss for a moment. The two had corresponded by letters, and Li Feiyu knew that Lu Changxing had broken through to Foundation establishment years ago. While he himself had been toiling in Azure Phoenix Immortal City and was still at the 9th level energy refinement, Foundation establishment seemed far away. I just happened to have some business to attend to. Lu Changxing smiled warmly, familiarly giving him a pat on the shoulder. I came over earlier and heard you were away. I thought I might not see you this trip. After awakening his memories at the Qingyun sect's heart inquiry platform, Li Feiyu could be called his best and only true friend, a good brother. As for Hong Yi, in his heart, he was only half as important. Not just because of the life-saving grace Li Feiyu had shown in the past, but the friendship that had accumulated while living as sons-in-law together on Qingzhou Mountain. My trip outside didn't yield much, so I came back early. Quite the coincidence. Li Feiyu showed a smile that hadn't changed in the 18 years of separation, his heroic and fierce face softening. Indeed, a laughter in today's reunion dispelled the vicissitudes of the past. Come on, let's find a place to sit and have a drink. This Azure Phoenix Immortal City really is quite different from what I had imagined, Lu Changxing said with a full smile. The two headed toward a nearby tavern. It seems like Daoist Li and this Foundation establishment senior have an extraordinary relationship, mused the old neighbor from afar, observing the demeanor of Lu Changxing and Li Feiyu. Drunk Immortal Pavilion. Inside a private room. Lu Changxing and Li Feiyu were drinking and reminiscing. Although they had kept up correspondence in the many years, they had only exchanged a dozen or so letters, merely maintaining contact. SAR the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And in those letters, neither of them would talk much about their own circumstances. For instance, Li Feiyu never mentioned his hardships, only recounting various happenings, sights, and joyful events in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. And Lu Changxing did the same, mostly talking about his children at home, as well as Li Feiyu's children and the Crimson Whale gang. Because he understood that Li Feiyu's circumstances couldn't be compared to his own. Talking too much about his own life would seem like boasting and could make others uncomfortable. Even though he believed their relationship wouldn't be affected that way, as a friend, he still paid attention to this. Who would have thought that you, Changxing, would become a patriarch yourself after all these years? Li Feiyu marveled upon learning about Lu Changxing establishing the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. Back then, they both became sons-in-law on Qingzhou Mountain in pursuit of the immortal path. Now, Lu Changxing had risen from a son-in-law to a patriarch. Feiyu, what are your plans for the future? Do you intend to return after achieving foundation establishment? Lu Changsheng learned of Li Feiyu's experiences over the years. Initially, he came to Azure Phoenix Immortal City with 3 companions. But along the way, one met a tragic death, and another chose to depart, ultimately leaving only 2 to arrive in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Upon arriving, they realized just how brutal the competition was for bottom-tier loose cultivators, struggling to survive in the outer city district. Fortunately, Li Feiyu had some knowledge of spirit plant and spirit slaughter skills, which allowed him to barely scrape by. Once he was acclimated, he started hunting demon beasts in the mountains. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 803, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. More than a decade had passed, and his close friend who first arrived at Azure Phoenix Immortal City with him died at the hands of demon beasts in the 2nd year. Over time, he had met many people, but after more than a decade, those who had left, and those who had died. I don't even know, after all these years, I feel like I've gotten used to living this way. To go back now, not only would I be dissatisfied, I wouldn't even know what to do. Li Feiyu shook his head and smiled. Just like you said at the beginning, Changsheng, we are fortunate to possess spiritual roots and have a fate with immortality. Having embarked on this path, we should advance bravely and diligently, pushing forward to live up to the generous gift from the heavens. If we choose to give up on ourselves, to abandon the journey halfway through, how could we be content to live a mediocre life with that weighing on our hearts? His initial arrival at Azure Phoenix Immortal City was driven by the hope to carve out a future for himself, to build a foundation for success. To achieve foundation establishment was to succeed. But now, having seen and learned so much, his ambitions had broadened and he was no longer content with just foundation establishment. In his view, foundation establishment was merely the true entrance into the cultivation world, the starting point to experience the wonders it had to offer. Once he achieved foundation establishment, he would never want to go back. Sigh. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng understood Li Feiyu's thoughts. If he wanted to succeed in cultivation, he would have to fight for it here in Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Choosing to go back would be tantamount to giving up on his cultivation halfway. Yet, having experienced the wonders of the immortal world, how many would willingly settle for a life of mediocrity? Or rather, being content with the ordinary wasn't an option for Li Feiyu. He wouldn't have chosen to come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, witnessing all kinds of cruelty, and still hold on. Feiyu, you're at the 9th level of energy refinement now, you should be preparing for foundation establishment, right? Lu Changsheng broke the silence and inquired. Even though the other party had a method of concealing his cultivation, it was an open book in front of his divine sense at the peak of foundation establishment. The beast tide came recently. I was lucky enough to make a small fortune, gathering a lot of materials. I'm currently looking for people to pool resources for alchemy. If that doesn't work out, I'll wait until I have enough spirit stones to bid on a foundation establishment pill, Li Feiyu explained. Pooling resources for alchemy? Lu Changsheng was a bit surprised to hear this. This is a common method for loose cultivators in Azure Phoenix Immortal City to obtain foundation establishment elixirs. Li Feiyu smiled and clarified, it's very hard for a loose cultivator to gather all the materials needed for a foundation establishment elixir on their own, so they often cooperate with others. For example, someone who is lucky enough to obtain a heavenly spirit fruit or a special monster core but lacks other complementary materials would seek to cooperate with someone who has them. In this way, when the elixir comes out of the furnace, whoever contributed the most gets first pick. If only one pill is successfully formed, only one person can choose, and the others have to accept their loss. But if there are multiple pills, everyone stands to gain, Li Feiyu said. I see. Lu Changsheng nodded his head upon understanding. He thought that it was quite a scheme, something he had never heard of before coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. How are your preparations going? Lu Changsheng continued to ask. For the foundation establishment pill, I'm just short of the main ingredients and a few key supplements. If there's someone willing to cooperate, I can offer money to purchase these supplements, which is not too difficult in the Immortal City. If no one wants to cooperate, then I'll just sell these materials for spirit stones when the time comes, Li Feiyu said, looking completely unfazed. Feiyu, I just happen to have a foundation establishment elixir here, you can buy it from me. If you don't have enough spirit stones, you can pay me back later, Lu Changxing said, taking out a foundation establishment pill he had obtained from Xiahou Wuwa and handed it to Li Feiyu. Since he was able, he naturally wanted to lend a hand to his good brother in such a situation. Initially, he had sold and given away a foundation establishment elixir to Qingzhou Mountain for the sake of Lu family loyalty and Lu Miaoge. He had written an IOU for Zhao Qingxing for a foundation establishment elixir out of acquaintance and with a bit of ulterior motive. But giving the foundation establishment elixir to Li Feiyu now held no hidden agenda. It was purely for the friendship they shared back then and the life-saving grace he had received from Li Feiyu. As for why he didn't just give it as a gift, he knew Li Feiyu well enough, he would definitely refuse to accept it if it was offered for free. Foundation establishment elixir. Li Feiyu was astonished when he heard Lu Changxing nonchalantly offer him a porcelain bottle. Although he knew his friend had had some fortune and was now no ordinary elder, he never imagined that Lu Changxing would casually offer up a foundation establishment elixir, suggesting he could owe the spirit stones if necessary. Having been in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for so many years, he had not only seen but also experienced friends backstabbing each other for profit. Yet here, Lu Changxing was offering him a foundation establishment elixir so generously, it really moved him, and he was at a loss for words. After all these years, you haven't changed a bit, Changxing. Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Li Feiyu said with a wistful smile. He had always known that Lu Changxing was exceptionally generous with those around him. Back in the day, most of his spirit stone expenditures were for his wives, concubines, and children. When he had gone out for trials, Lu Changxing gave him a stack of talismans, a middle-grade puppet, and 300 spirit stones. Years had passed, and Lu Changxing had become even more generous. Now he was even taking out such a rare elixir medicine as a foundation establishment elixir so casually. At that moment, Li Feiyu's emotions were complex, flooded with numerous feelings. After so long in Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he had witnessed countless people fighting to the death for a single foundation establishment elixir, losing their lives in the process. Even he could not guarantee he would be able to secure a foundation establishment elixir before the age of 60. Yet Lu Changxing could so easily produce one. It's our friendship that hasn't changed. Lu Changxing placed the foundation establishment elixir on the table and laughed. Let's not stand on ceremony with each other. If you really feel uncomfortable about it, you can repay me more when you have the spirit stones, think of it as interest. Aren't you afraid that it'll fail the foundation establishment? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 804, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. Li Feiyu was deeply touched, knowing that Lu Changxing said so because he feared Li would refuse. I have confidence in you. Lu Changxing half-jokingly said, if it really fails, then you can come to Bihu Mountain to work and pay off your debts. All right. Li Feiyu chuckled, but it will still take me 2 or 3 years to reach the peak of qi refining and attempt foundation establishment. During this time, I'll see if I can gather enough human refinement foundation establishment elixirs in the Immortal City. If not, I'll go home and find you. It has been many years since I've gone back. It's indeed time to visit, Li Feiyu spoke with a tone and expression that carried a trace of heaviness. He still had parents, a wife, and children at home, but for the sake of cultivation, he had not visited them for many years, which could be said to be quite irresponsible. All right. Lu Changxing was silent for a moment, not insisting. He knew that deep down, Li Feiyu still wanted to give it another try. Regarding this feeling, he could probably understand. Foundation establishment was the purpose and persistence of the other party in coming to Azure Phoenix Immortal City for so many years. Now, relying on step-by-step efforts, he had reached the final step. If he completed it with someone else's help, there would inevitably be some regrets in his heart. Thank you, Changxing. Li Feiyu said with a smile on his face. Hee, I've said it before, there's no need to be so polite between us. Lu Changxing handed a yin-yang sensing talisman to Li Feiyu. I will be in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for 2 months, if you need anything, feel free to find me. Okay. Li Feiyu took the yin-yang sensing talisman. After bidding farewell to Li Feiyu, Lu Changxing returned to the inner city. In the following days, he spent his time strolling and enjoying the Immortal City with his wife, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan. Although this excursion was to visit his children, it also doubled as a vacation for the couple. During this period, Lu Changxing called Li Feiyu out to join them casually. Seeing Lu Miaoge, the former young lady of the Lu family, having also achieved foundation establishment, Li Feiyu was quite emotional. After all, from his current perspective, it was somewhat difficult for Lu Miaoge to achieve foundation establishment. The Novel Fire. Enter website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Moreover, from the changes in Lu Miaoge's appearance and temperament, he could roughly guess that she must have encountered some fortunate opportunity. And that this opportunity might have something to do with Lu Changxing. He didn't inquire or pay much attention to this, instead acting as a guide for Lu Changxing in the Immortal City. However, he had been in Azure Phoenix Immortal City for many years and was more familiar with the outer city than the inner city. He was even less familiar with the inner city than he was with the Myriad Beasts mountain range. After all, for more than a decade, he spent most of his time in the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Speaking of the Myriad Beasts mountain range, I obtained a treasure map before. It's suspected to be in the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Feiyu, help me take a look. When Lu Changxing heard Li Feiyu mention the Myriad Beasts mountain range, it reminded him of the treasure map he had obtained from Fangyu. He had initially planned to auction off this treasure map, but Ling Zixiao said it wouldn't fetch a good price. Now that he had come to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, he thought it might sell for a decent price. A treasure map? Li Feiyu was surprised. Then he examined the treasure map Lu Changxing handed over. After scrutinizing it for a moment, he pondered, this map's relic is likely in the Myriad Beasts mountain range, but it seems to be in a deeper part of the range. How much could this treasure map be worth? Lu Changxing inquired. He wasn't particularly concerned about where the relic was, since he had no intention of exploring. Maps of relics located deep in the Myriad Beasts mountain range pose significant danger even for Foundation establishment cultivators to visit. If there's only one map, it probably isn't worth much. It needs more information related to the relic to be valuable. Most relics, after all, are bound with various prohibitions, Li Feiyu spoke out. He had spent many years exploring relic sites and cave mansions. He indicated that such treasure maps are often forgeries. Unless there is related information that can verify the situation of the relics, or related items, it is difficult to sell them for a high price. Even a map like the one Lu Changxing had, though it looked complicated, might only sell for a few thousand spirit stones, and it would still be hard to sell. I heard before that this ancient relic contained top-tier inheritances, opportunities for core formation, and even nascent soul. I thought it could be worth quite a lot, but it turns out to be just this. Lu Changxing lightly chuckled, not really minding. If you had items related to the relic, Changxing, or if you had explored and confirmed it yourself, it could fetch a high price, even more than 10,000 spirit stones. In places like Azure Phoenix Immortal City, even the City Lord Mansion would purchase information of this sort, Li Feiyu spoke with a smile. Items related to the relic? Lu Changxing raised an eyebrow, pondering, and did not remember collecting any particular items when clearing out the gains. He didn't think much of it and continued, City Lord Mansion? I heard that previously when the Beast Tide attacked, the master of the Immortal City, Azure Phoenix Immortal, personally took action and fought 3 great demons alone, killing one and gravely injuring another. That's right, Azure Phoenix Immortal did indeed take action. Li Feiyu's eyes showed a mixture of emotion, longing, and admiration. Although he couldn't see clearly on that day, the brief appearance of Azure Phoenix Immortal had made a deeply profound impression on him. Especially since she was a woman, it made him respect her even more and feel that one should aim to live such a life. And seeing Azure Phoenix Immortal, a woman and a first-grade independent cultivator, reaching such heights, inevitably inspired him. Wow, Azure Phoenix Immortal, Qingluan Dao Bing. As Lu Changxing listened to Li Feiyu recount the scene of the beast tide, he couldn't help but sigh. He was eager to meet this Azure Phoenix Immortal, renowned as Jianghu country's #1 independent cultivator. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. That day, outside of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, a spiritual vessel surrounded by golden spiritual light slowly descended. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 805, Encounter in Immortal City, Demonic Body. _4 Compared to the spiritual vessel of Qingyun sect, this spiritual vessel looked slightly smaller, but the number of its cannon turrets seemed greater. CTH Novel Fire. And a website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Feiyu, when we meet again, you can always write to me at by Lake Mountain if there's anything. Lu Changxing said to Li Feiyu. Okay, Changxing. Miss, second miss, have a smooth journey, Li Feiyu nodded and bowed. Subsequently, Lu Changxing and the 2 others lined up to board the spiritual vessel of Jinyang sect. This spiritual vessel of Jinyang sect was much like that of Qingyun sect, and the seating also roughly divided into 3 tiers. Thanks to the token given by Tianyuan True Immortal, the 3 of them were arranged in a first-class luxurious cabin. Who? Li Feiyu watched as Lu Changxing boarded the spiritual vessel with a hint of being sentimentally attached. On one hand, a gathering of friends was now again a parting for an unknown future meeting. Furthermore, Lu Changsheng's son and daughter had been taken in as disciples by Jinyang sect, causing him to travel great distances from by Lake Mountain to Azure Phoenix Immortal City, then on to Jinyang sect in Yu country. Yet, he himself had been away from home for over a decade, never once returning. I've rested enough on this trip, time to continue striving with effort. 3 years, whether I achieve foundation establishment or not, I should return for a visit. Li Feiyu muttered to himself, setting a time limit for himself. He then turned and left. He did not return to Azure Phoenix Immortal City but instead headed towards the direction of the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Feiyu, I hope you want me to use this talisman. Aboard the spiritual vessel, Lu Changxing seemed to see Li Feiyu heading to the Myriad Beasts mountain range and muttered in his heart. Through interactions over recent days, he could generally sense that his inevitable influence had affected Li Feiyu's mentality. This might cause Li Feiyu to be even more eager to break through to foundation establishment. That was why he gave Li Feiyu a first-order top-grade puppet today, indicating it was a sentiment of his heart. But within the core of the puppet, he had placed a 3rd-rank substitute talisman. As long as Li Feiyu installed a spirit stone in the puppet, he should be able to discover this talisman. This way, in the face of danger in the future, it could save his life. Changxing, Lu Miaoga noticed Lu Changsheng's sentimentality due to the parting and showed a tender expression on her face, holding his hand silently to comfort him. I'm fine. It's just that seeing Feiyu in this situation has made me a bit emotional, Lu Changxing said with a smile and a gentle voice. Not long after, the spiritual vessel embarked on its journey, flying toward Jinyang sect. Half a year more, and they'll be at Jinyang sect, able to see Qingshan and Qingzhu. Lu Changxing looked out the window, mind wandering to what his son, Lu Qingshan, and his daughter, Lu Qingzhu, would look like now at Jinyang sect. Demonic sect. Inside a spacious hall that seemed to be constructed of obsidian stone. The entire hall's walls, the ground, and the ceiling were all smooth, without any decorative patterns or even windows or doors. Just at this moment, a young man with a cold face and snow-white hair, dressed in a black robe adorned with dragon patterns, appeared out of thin air in the center of the hall. Kikatamu Prajna Same, the young man with white hair chanted indifferently. Buzz buzz buzz. At that instant, on the hall's walls, demonic creatures, ferocious and diverse in form, slowly emerged. Though merely patterns, they seemed vibrantly alive, as if about to step out from the walls, imposing an indescribable terror on those who beheld them. Boom boom boom, the entire hall started to shrink as the demons appeared. Endless crimson light surged within the hall as if accompanied by wailing sounds. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Chu Changa, faced with such tumult, stood unmoving, his luxurious dragon-patterned black robe and a head of snow-white hair flailing in disarray. The grand hall continued to shrink and compress, the blood light becoming ever more intense, pressing towards Chu Chang'e, making it seem as though he was shouldering a mountain, his body gradually bending. Chu Chang'e's expression remained unchanged. He held on steadfastly, the bones in his body creaking and crunching, with blood gradually trickling from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, on the walls, one by one, the red light from unknown demon patterns flared, and threads of mist began converging towards Chu Chang'e. It surged in and out of his mouth and nose like two dragon pillars, exceedingly demonic. Crack. 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 Spurt. 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 As the grand hall grew smaller and smaller, Chu Chang'e's body seemed to become heavier, the bones in his body crackling chaotically, veins and blood vessels swelling like earthworms, dragon-patterned black robes bursting open with blood spattering. Humming humming humming, demon patterns on all sides lit up, roaring and hissing, turning into a mist of multicolored fog that swirled towards Chu Chang'e's flesh. These wounds immediately began to heal at a visibly rapid pace. But the process repeated itself. Chu Chang'e's body kept rupturing and healing, nearly turning into a bloodied figure, standing silently unmoved. If not for the constant chaotic crackling of his bones and the slight bending of his spine, he might have seemed dead. It was hard to tell how much time had passed, as the bloodied figure of Chu Chang'e seemed unable to bear the pressure and was nearly about to collapse. But just then, bizarre and unpredictable demon runes began to emerge on Chu Chang'e's body and face, accompanied by a horrifying aura as deep and unfathomable as an abyss. Instantly, he steadied his stance and stood up once again. Boom boom boom. However, the entire grand hall had shrunk to the size of a coffin, extremely cramped, squeezing in on Chu Chang'e as though it intended to crush him into a mush of blood and flesh. Demon patterns on the surrounding walls, the ground, and the ceiling seemed to come to life, watching Chu Chang'e, even reaching out with claws, tails, and tongues to bite and gnaw at him. At that moment, a blood-colored phantom with 3 heads and 6 arms slowly emerged behind Chu Chang'e. The phantom was vague, indistinct, partially hidden and partially visible. But as soon as the blood-colored phantom appeared, all the demon patterns ceased their movements and returned to the walls, emitting waves of hissing and emitting intense blood light. Boom boom boom. The grand hall kept shrinking and compressing, yet it was held open by the 3 heads and 6 arms of the blood-colored phantom. Amidst the endless press of blood light, Chu Chang'e's body continued to rupture open, blood flying in every direction, allowing a multitude of multicolored mists to enter his body. Upon closer observation, it could be seen that as more and more mist entered Chu Chang'e's body, the blood-colored phantom on his back became more defined. Although the 3 faces were still blurry and elusive, manifesting and vanishing unpredictably, one could barely make out expressions of ferocity, hatred, and indifference. Humming humming humming, it was unclear how much more time passed before a sinister crescent moon lotus pattern in a sanguine hue emerged on Chu Chang'e's forehead, and demon runes across his body seemed to come to life, slithering over his skin, muscles bulging, turning into black and red scales. His eyes gradually turned pitch black, showing no whites, and his white hair reached down to his heels, tinged with streaks of blood light. Roar roar roar, ao ao ao, whimper whimper whimper. At this moment, demon patterns in every direction within the grand hall roared and howled as if celebrating, chanting in jubilation. The entire grand hall, once as suffocating and constricting as a coffin, expanded once more, becoming spacious. Demonic body, Chu Chang'e murmured to himself. At this moment, he resembled a monster, his body covered in black and red scales, eyes dark as ink, exuding an evil and terrifying presence that sent chills to the core. The next moment, the scales on his body and the blood-colored phantom slowly dissipated, all converging into a black and red, bizarrely shaped crystal on his chest. A wave of rolling black mist, akin to a great serpent, surged forth. It transformed into a powerfully built man in black armor, his body covered in black demon runes, his facial features deeply etched with malevolence, a bald giant. Upon seeing the black and red crystal on Chu Chang'e's chest, he immediately kneeled on one knee and shouted loudly, "Congratulations, young master, on completing the trial and condensing the demonic body. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 806, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, 5 Elements Fruit, a Reunion. Heh. Demonic Body. Chu Chunga looked at the bald man in front of him, his pupils revealing a hint of sarcasm as he let out a sneer. He donned a black robe embroidered with dragon patterns anew and spoke in a low voice to He Chiu. I need to make a trip to Jianghu country, prepare some things for me. What does young master need to prepare? The bald man clad in black armor, his body inscribed with demon runes, lifted his head with a face full of obsequiousness. Chu Chunga pondered softly. Foundation Establishment Elixir, Lifespan Extension Pill, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, Dragon Scale Fruit, 5 Elements Spirit Fruit, Soul Nurturing Jade. After listing a pile of elixir medicines and heavenly and earthly treasures, he continued, as for the Heaven Replenishing Elixir and the 5 Elements Spirit Fruit, I want all that we currently have. Hearing this, the bald man froze in place. Then he hesitated. Young master, with your status, obtaining Foundation Establishment Elixirs and Lifespan Extension Pills is certainly no problem. You may have as many as you wish. But the Heaven Replenishing Elixir, Dragon Scale Fruit, and 5 Elements Spirit Fruit are extremely rare. Our Sex Treasure Vault also doesn't have many of these, so if young master needs them, you must obtain the ancient master's consent. He Chiu said so. If that's the case, then go notify him. Chu Chunga let out a light chuckle and said softly. As his voice fell, his figure vanished from the spacious and vast hall. Seeing this, He Chiu revealed a wry smile. Then, transforming into a roll of black fog, as sinuous as a dragon serpent, he arrived in front of a lofty and towering castle shrouded in mystery and depth. In front of the castle was a broad square. The square was surrounded by poles bearing black and red demon flags, as if figures of demon heads appeared faintly visible, creating a mysterious and dreadful momentum. Sect Master, He Chiu requests an audience. He Chiu bowed and called out to the grand hall. Boom! The gates of the castle, tall enough to reach the heavens, slowly swung open. He Chiu entered the castle, and at the very top was a sinister black throne, with statues and patterns of demons on both sides. He Chiu, what is it? At that moment, a mysterious robed man with an ethereal face and figure appeared on the throne. His features were indistinct, yet he exuded an inexplicable aura of sharpness and majesty. Especially his deep black pupils seemed like they could penetrate everything. The young master has already condensed the demonic body and is preparing to make a trip to Jianghu country, and he needs, the bald man, clad in black armor with demon runes, his facial features deeply etched and fearsome, scratched his head and continued, but the ancient master is still in closed-door cultivation. This is a matter of great importance, and I cannot make a decision on my own, so I had to come and ask you, Sect Master. Demonic body. How long has it been and he's already condensed the demonic body? The man on the throne was visibly moved upon hearing this. These items he is preparing cannot be for his own use. Obviously, they are for someone else. His pale fingers tapped on the armrest as he murmured to himself, it seems he has understood his destiny. But these heaven replenishing elixirs and 5 elements spirit fruits, give them to him. Just then, an aged and indifferent voice rang out. Sar the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Suddenly, a youth dressed in a black robe appeared out of thin air in the hall. His jet black hair was casually tied with a wooden pin, his appearance both handsome and exotic, exuding an air of time-worn experience that belied his age. Greetings, ancient master. Greetings, ancient master. Both the mysterious robed man on the throne and He Chiu bowed in salute upon seeing the youth. In at most 100 years, the ancestor of the Blood River sect will make his final bid by stirring up chaos, sacrificing the masses with blood, all in an attempt to achieve divinity transformation. My excellent disciple has condensed the demonic body in just 30 years. When the chaos begins, it will be the opportunity for his demonic body to reach great success, as well as for our demonic sect. His initiative in making such a request shows that he is already aware of his destiny. So let it be, just fulfill his wishes. The youthful ancient master spoke with a profound look in his eyes, his hands clasped behind his back. Yes, ancient master. The man in the mysterious robe bowed and assented. He then inquired softly, Ancient master, now that he knows his destiny, will he possibly, rest assured, my disciple is not one who easily submits to fate. Besides, his making such a request is already a clear statement, said the youthful ancient master with a soft chuckle. Then he looked towards the bald man. When the time comes, accompany the young master, follow his arrangements throughout the journey, and meet any of his requests with your full effort. Understood? Ancient master, rest assured, your humble servant understands. The bald man grinned, his face full of sycophantic eagerness to please. Ancient master, since ancestor of the Blood River sect is planning to stir up chaos, should our demonic sect begin preparations early? The mysterious robed elder continued looking toward the youthful ancient master, inquiring respectfully. Naturally. The youthful ancient master smiled. Before long, the Blood River sect will discuss the matter of forming an alliance. When the time comes, you can handle it as you see fit. Having spoken, his figure disappeared within the hall. Farewell, ancient master. The mysterious robed man respectfully bade farewell, his gaze revealing a sliver of joy. His cultivation was finding it extremely difficult to advance further, to continue breaking through. A significant opportunity was essential. But such opportunities were exceedingly rare. Yet amidst chaos, tumult, and upheaval, came chances and opportunities. Half a year later. Outside the Jianghu marketplace. A spiritual vessel slowly descended and came to a halt. Fellow Daoists, we have arrived at the Jianghu marketplace. A deep and resounding announcement spread throughout the vessel. Hearing this, Lu Changxing and his wife Lu Miaoge, along with Lu Miaohuan, stepped off the spiritual vessel. This trip on the spiritual vessel was said to head towards the Jianghu sect, but it was not a direct trip to the Jianghu sect. Instead, it stopped at the largest marketplace under the Jianghu sect's name. The three of them entered the marketplace, purchased a map of Yu country, and looked up the location of the Jianghu sect. From the Jianghu marketplace, it wasn't far to the Jianghu sect. It would only take about 2 or 3 days by driving the spirit boat. Immediately, Lu Changxing piloted the spirit boat, taking his wife Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan toward the Jianghu sect. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 807, Heaven Replenishing Elixir, 5 Elements Fruit, Reunion. After all, having spent so much time on the road, the anticipation of finally seeing their children meant that the three of them were not in the mood to rest or amuse themselves at the marketplace. 2 days later, Lu Changxing and his 2 companions arrived at the Jianghu sect. The Jianghu sect was located in the central region of the towering mountain range. The surrounding mountains had more stones than trees and spirit plants, which, basking in the sunlight, glittered brilliantly, bestowing a gentle gold hue on the clouds above, imbuing them with a dignified and majestic aura. Is this the Jianghu sect? S.E.A. the novel, F. Iyer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The three stood before the gates of the Jianghu sect, curiously observing, eager to witness the Immortal sect where their children resided. Subsequently, Lu Miaoge took out the token of Tianyuan True Immortal and had a disciple guarding the mountain go forth to announce their arrival. Husband, Lu Miaohuan looked at the Jianghu sect, gently biting her lip, her face revealing a complex expression of excitement, anticipation, and nervous confusion. After all, as a mother, she had not seen her son for 10 years. The imminent reunion with her son left her unsure of how to face him, or what to say. Not just her, but at this moment, Lu Miaoge too seemed a little distracted, looking into the Jianghu sect. It'll be okay. Lu Changxing held the hands of his two wives, squeezing them gently, and reassured them in a warm voice. His own emotions were much calmer in comparison to the two women. However, the thought of being a father who hadn't seen his children in 12 years, kids who had previously barely come up to his chest, would now, after 12 years, have surely grown into adults. For a moment, even Lu Changsheng's own thoughts drifted in anticipation of the reunion with his children. About half an hour passed. Who? A crane's call rang out. A majestic, snow-white crane with a noble presence flew out from the Jianghu sect. Upon it stood a young man in a gold and white magical robe, with a tall and graceful posture, a clear and handsome face, red lips, white teeth, and spirited eyebrows. Dad, Mom, Aunt. The young man saw Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan below and immediately showed an excited and joyful expression on his face, leaping directly down from the immortal crane. The three were briefly taken aback upon seeing the young man. In his features, they could discern the childhood visage of their son, Lu Qingshan. But many years had passed, and the once mischievous youth had grown up, transformed profoundly. Qingshan. Lu Miaohuan, with tears shining in her eyes, stepped forward and hugged her son tightly. She released him after a moment, examining him closely, pinching his face and arms. Ahem, Mom, I'm an adult now, not a little kid anymore. Lu Qingshan, seeing his mother still treating him like a child, coughed lightly. He slightly subdued his excitement and straightened his posture, showing a bit of composure. In Jianghu sect, Lu Qingshan was after all someone with a certain status. Being treated as a child in front of everyone would indeed damage his image. To Mom, you'll always be my child, and all this must have been hard on you. Lu Miaohuan gazed at her son, her eyes red and tearful, blinking back tears. Lu Qingshan was taken aback for a moment, knowing his mother's temperament well and aware that his absence over the years must have caused her great worry and longing. He wiped the tears from her eyes and grinned, saying, "What hardship could I have? It's just that I've made you worry, Mom. Look at me, do I look like someone who has suffered? On the contrary, Mom, you look thinner. Has Dad been giving you a hard time?" Lu Qingshan comforted his mother and then turned to Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge, his eyes brimming with joy, saying, "Dad, Aunt, what brings you to the Jianghu sect?" He was no longer the child he once was. He knew that the journey from Jiang country to Jianghu sect was extremely long. Even with the token from his master allowing them to travel by the spiritual vessel, the trip was still very troublesome and dangerous. With you and little Zhu at the Jianghu sect, we were naturally worried. Since we had the time, we decided to come visit. Lu Changxing looked at his son, brimming with youthful vitality, and smiled, "Where's Zhu?" "Little Zhu is still at the sect." Lu Qingshan beamed with happiness and said, "I just received the message that you had arrived. I couldn't believe it, so I rushed over immediately and haven't yet informed little Zhu. Dad, Mom, Aunt, let's go inside and talk. Little Zhu will surely be delighted to know you're here." Lu Qingshan's momentarily composed demeanor vanished completely, speaking with a face full of glee and joy. Then he shouted to the white crane in the sky, "Fairy crane." But as he shouted, he secretly transmitted his voice to the immortal crane, "Fairy crane, these are my parents, please do me a favor and give us a lift." Lu Changxing just realized that the white crane his son had just ridden was actually a second-rank spirit crane. It made him think to himself, his son was truly worthy of being a disciple of a nascent soul immortal, riding a second-rank spirit bird even at the Qi refinement realm. However, as a foundation establishment cultivator with a divine sense comparable to the peak of foundation establishment, he vaguely caught his son passing some messages to the other with divine sense. Realizing that the white crane was not his son's mount, it must be the mount, or perhaps the pet, of that Tianyuan true immortal. No need to shout so loudly. The fairy crane replied with a lack of good spirits, but descended from the sky, giving Lu Qingshan some face. "Dad, Mom, Auntie, you all come up." Lu Qingshan said with a beaming smile, gesturing for them to join him. Lu Changxing and the two others did not reject their son's kind offer. The white crane was huge, several zhang in size, bigger than a bull, spaciously accommodating all four of them. Thus, the four of them rode the fairy crane into the Jianghu sect. Inside, mountains rose majestically with clouds swirling around them, an incredibly stunning sight. Through the misty clouds around the mountains, one could faintly make out various palaces and pavilions. In the center of these mountains, there was a golden high mountain, shining brilliantly, devoid of any vegetation, shimmering slightly, almost like a golden great bell. Dad, Mom, Auntie, that's the Tianyuan Peak where I reside. Lu Qingshan pointed towards a lush, blossoming, verdant mountain with waterfalls cascading down. It seems you all live in a pretty nice environment. Lu Changxing commented with a laugh. Hee, not bad. Since the master is not often around, the entire mountain is just Xiaozhur and me. Lu Qingshan said smilingly. Really, just you and Xiaozhur on the whole mountain? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised upon hearing this. Not just him, Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan were also very surprised. Although the three had never been to the Jianghu sect, through Qingyun sect, they knew a bit about the situation of the immortal sects. They knew that if one managed a peak, there would have to be some disciples, stewards, executors, and the like. That's right, the master is often out and doesn't care much about administration, so it's just Xiaozhur and me on Tianyuan Peak. But this is also quite nice, free and easy, Lu Qingshan spoke. As they spoke, the fairy crane approached the mountain. Lu Qingshan took out a token, and through a simple formation, entered it. The formation here simply served to block external probing. Most of the immortal sects, apart from their core forbidden areas, would not set up too many protective great formations, as having the external ones was sufficient. Unlike the elaborately carved palaces and pavilions of the other mountains, this peak was indeed quite simple. There was only a palace at the top, and elsewhere were but a few simple huts and several spirit fields and medicinal gardens. Xiaozhur. Xiaozhur. Before the fairy crane could even land, Lu Qingshan leapt from its back, running towards the great hall and shouting loudly. Why are you still so impulsive? Lu Changxing shook his head and laughed as he watched his son's antics. Then he took his wife's hand, floated across the space, descending from the crane's back, and arrived in front of the great hall. Soon after, Lu Qingzhu rushed out from the hall and hastened along with Lu Qingshan. Now, this daughter of his had also grown into a graceful and stunningly beautiful young woman. She wore the disciple garments of the Jianghu sect, bearing a resemblance to her mother, Lu Miaoge, by about 70%. But compared to Lu Miaoge, she had less of an ethereal grace and more of a tranquil elegance. Xiaozhur. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge called out to their daughter. Daddy, Mom, Auntie. Lu Qingzhu saw the three people at the entrance, and her eyes immediately reddened with emotion, her delicate body trembling as she joyfully shouted. Then, her face beaming with happiness and tears, she rushed forward and threw herself into her father Lu Changsheng's arms. Xiaozhur. As Lu Changxing held his daughter feeling her like this, he gently stroked her hair and back. Seeing his son, Lu Qingshan, so independent and self-sufficient, he was naturally happy, but it didn't impact his emotions too much. But seeing his daughter so emotionally stirred, he too was moved, feeling a wave of guilt. After all, Lu Qingzhu, unlike Lu Qingshan, had a gentler disposition. Having been separated for so long, she must have often been alone, missing them sorrowfully. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 808, Chu Chang'e, is this a person of the demon path? Tianyuan Peak, inside the palace. The family of Lu Changxing gathered together. I didn't expect father and aunt to have broken through to Foundation establishment already. I was thinking of taking little Zhu back home after I break through to Foundation establishment in a few years. Lu Qingshan said with a grin, his handsome face filled with happiness and joy. He then recounted his own and his sister's experiences over the years. and intentionally made himself look calm and composed, expressing that he had ranked in the top 50 in the sex sword trial competition. With his 7th level energy refinement cultivation, he defeated those at the 9th level. Hee, not bad. Lu Changxing praised with a chuckle. Qingshan, are these competitions dangerous? Could you get hurt? Lu Miaohuan, who was beside him, listened to her son's stories, showing a face filled with happiness and pride, concernedly inquiring. She hadn't felt settled in her heart when she didn't see her son initially, but now seeing Lu Qingshan all well, she was relieved. Of course, there's no danger, mother, you can rest assured. Lu Qingshan said, full of youthful vigor and brimming with confidence. Lu Qingzhu, who had just cried out of excitement, still had slightly red eyes. At this moment, she gently leaned quietly against her mother's arm, listening to her brother recount various experiences. She only spoke softly about some topics, inquiring about her parents' home situation, or playfully challenging her brother's stories. Qingshan, Qingzhu, are you able to go out often? Now that you're here, I also plan to travel around your country, to get a sense of the local culture and people. Lu Changxing spoke up. He had come this time not only to accompany his wives to visit their children, but also to see his son's situation and decide whether to give him the sword-charging bull's might seed of law. Now that he had seen his son's situation, he had a good idea in mind. But having come all this way, it was natural not to just meet and leave. The family needed to spend quality time together. That's certainly possible, I just need to notify Crane Fairy. Lu Qingshan said excitedly, I haven't really gone out much to enjoy myself these past years. Since the Peak Master Tianyuan True Immortal of Tianyuan Peak was often away and did not manage the peak much, he and his siblings enjoyed a lot of freedom. Immediately, he ran out of the palace, told Crane Fairy, and Lu Changxing then piloted the spirit boat. The family flew out of Jianghu sect to travel and play outside. Some are simple and generous, others are proud and arrogant, each person's circumstances are varied, and character alone doesn't define good or bad. Qingshan has a keen and shrewd edge to him, but he is also quick-witted. On the spirit boat, Lu Changxing looked at his son Lu Qingshan, thinking to himself. Like Lu Pingan, Lu Xianji, Lu Chuanjin, Lu Yun, because the family was ordinary back then, the children didn't have much arrogance. Whereas Lu Qingshan, having been doted on from a young age at Qingzhou Mountain, possessed a semblance of an esteemed family's demeanor. Now possessing a spiritual body, entering an immortal sect, and being accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal, he naturally had a certain proud aura. Lu Changxing didn't necessarily see a problem with his son's temperament, but he was somewhat concerned. Because with such a temperament, once setbacks occur, they can be significant. But this temperament is quite suitable for the sword-charging bull's might seed of law. Perhaps he could someday clear all the obstacles on the path of cultivation with a single sword. Lu Changxing sighed lightly. Jianghu Country, Zhoushan Mansion City. Chu Chang'e wore a plain black robe, his snow-white hair turned black and simply pinned up with a wooden hairpin, walking along the street like an elegant scholar. Shortly after, he arrived in front of a mansion, looking at the Chu residence sign and walked in. The protector at the gate seemed not to see him, allowing him to move freely within the residence. Chu Chang'e walked through the old courtyard, his expression somewhat dazed. Then he leisurely moved to the graveyard and ancestral hall in the backyard, offering incense and worship. Jinjin probably still visits here. I wonder how Jinjin is now. The children must have grown up by now. Chu Chang'e murmured to himself, recalling the days he saw his sister, who was already a mother with several children. He sat alone in front of the tombstone for a long time before transforming into a streak of light and vanishing. Several days later, Chu Chang'e arrived outside Qingzhou Mountain. What is going on? Chu changes expression, usually calm, suddenly turns sharp and cold, his eyes turning deep and profound, captivating. He clearly remembered his sister and her family being in this family spirit land. But now, he couldn't feel any familial pulse, indicating that his sister wasn't there. Hey Chiu. He coldly stared at Qingzhou Mountain, flicking out a drop of crystal-clear scarlet blood. Yes, young master. A bald man dressed in black armor, his face covered with demon runes, immediately appeared, respectfully responding. Cth Nell Fire. Enter website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He then quickly made a gesture incantation, turning the drop of blood into a mini dark red snake. The little snake looked in 2 different directions. Young master, there are people related to your bloodline in both directions. The bloodline is stronger in this direction, but it's farther away. It's weaker in this direction, but closer. He Chiu explained. In that case, let's check out this side. Chu Chang's cold expression faded, regaining his calm and serene demeanor. He swept the mealy little snake into his sleeve, and then transformed into a streak of light heading towards Red Leaf Valley Market. Red Leaf Valley Market. A few hours later, Chu Chang'e stood before the marketplace name. Through the blood-guiding snake in his sleeve, he knew the person he was looking for was here. He paid a spirit stone, gave a false name, and entered the marketplace. After a while, he stopped in front of a 3-story shop. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 809, Chu Chang'e, is this a person of the demon path? Above hung a signboard, Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop. Bihu Mountain Spiritual Wine Shop. Chu Chang'e looked at the shop and walked straight in. Inside, various drinks were displayed, and a maid immediately came forward to receive him, asking what Chu Chang'e needed. "I'll just look around." Chu Chang'e softly spoke, heading deeper into the shop. "This customer, I am the shopkeeper of this spiritual wine shop. May I know if you need anything?" Inside the store, a young man who was browsing through books saw Chu Chang'e, put down his books, showed a slight smile, stood up, and courteously spoke. Jinjin. Chu Chang'e looked at the young man in front of him, dressed in a blue silk robe, with an elegant and handsome demeanor, and momentarily hesitated. Even without using the blood snake in his sleeve, he knew that the other was his sister's son, his own nephew. Because he looked so much alike. Especially the facial features around the eyebrows and eyes, the slightly long eye corners when he smiled, just exactly like his sister. "Customer?" Lu Chuanjin saw that the other was lost in thought, unchanged in expression, and called out. "Hee, sorry, I just got distracted by some thoughts." "What types of drinks do you have here?" Chu Chang'e asked softly with an amiable and learned demeanor. Long after Lu Chuanjin, Chu Chang'e walked out of the spiritual wine shop with a smile on his face. They had a simple chat, and the more he observed his nephew, the more pleasant he felt. However, considering his current situation, he did not reveal his identity. He planned to make further contact, get familiar, and see what his nephew's plans for the future were. At that time, as his uncle, he would help if he could. This was also one of his purposes for coming back. To see how his sister was doing and how his nephews and nieces were. Zhao. Lu Chuanjin watched Chu Change's departing figure, his eyes revealing a thoughtful expression. Bihu Mountain. Sar the Nell Fire. Enter website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Chu Chang'e turned to look at the shop sign again, planning to find out more about Bihu Mountain. Because they had just chatted, he knew that his nephew was not only the shopkeeper but also the junior owner. This made him curious about Bihu Mountain. After all, except for knowing that his brother-in-law was called Lu Changxing, he knew nothing else. Moments later, Chu Chang'e found a shop that dealt in information trading. Upon arrival, someone immediately came to inquire, "Daoist friend, may you be seeking some information? Do you have any information about Bihu Mountain here?" Chu Chang'e, in a black wide robe, like a graciously gentle scholar, softly inquired. "Bihu Mountain?" "Yes, of course." The female cultivator shopkeeper, a 40-something-year-old woman, replied enthusiastically upon hearing this. "Many people, just like Daoist friend, come to our shop to purchase information about Bihu Mountain. If Daoist friend is thinking of visiting Bihu Mountain as a visiting noble servant or an apprentice, our shop has channels for that and can even introduce you." The female cultivator said so. "Oh. Is Bihu Mountain that famous?" Chu Chang'e said, slightly surprised. Daoist friend jests, who in Red Leaf Valley Market doesn't know the big name of Bihu Mountain?" The female cultivator laughed and said, "What kind of information does Daoist friend need?" "All information about Bihu Mountain." Chu Chunga spoke. We have it, Daoist friend, please wait a moment." The female cultivator replied, beaming. Soon after, she served Chu Chunga some tea and went to fetch information about Bihu Mountain. After a while, she came back with a tray carrying 5 jade slips and said, "Daoist friend, here is the information about Bihu Mountain, a generous price of 100 middle-grade spirit stones." Chu Chunga nodded, took out a middle-grade spirit stone, then took the jade slips and checked them one by one. Bihu Mountain, once the territory of the Yu family, now the Lu family's domain. Mountain Lord Lu Changsheng, once a son-in-law in the Lu family of Bihu Mountain, attacked the Patriarch of the Yu family who interfered with his wife Lu Maiaja's foundation establishment, immediately killed 3 great foundation establishers of the Yu family, and took Bihu Mountain from the hands of the Yu family, establishing the Blue Lake Mountain Lu family. Mountain Lord Lu Changsheng has 7 wives and 43 concubines. Chu Chunga had just read the information about the wives and concubines when his face suddenly turned cold, and the teacup in his right hand shattered into powder with a bang. He initially had a fairly good impression of his brother-in-law. One reason was that the other had refurbished their family home and erected monuments for his parents. Another was that he had met this brother-in-law once, 20 years ago. At that time, the other was with his sister, and the two were lovingly close. But now, seeing the information in the jade slip, his so-called brother-in-law actually had 7 wives, over 40 concubines, several maids, and 2 Dao companions. The matter of the children was even more outrageous, with the jade slip only stating that the latest count was 180, with more details unknown. This reminded him of the time he entered Qingzhou Mountain and saw his sister with 10 children by her side. Due to the blood resonance, he thought only 3 were his sisters, with the others likely being children from other families. It now appeared that all 10 children were sired by his cheap brother-in-law. Damn! A cold glint appeared in Chu Change's eyes. Even if the other had 3 wives and 4 concubines, he could accept and understand. But from all the information in the jade slip, he was unable to accept and even suspected his brother-in-law to be a person of the demon path, practicing some form of dual cultivation absorption technique. Other than this scenario, he simply could not comprehend why a normal cultivator would marry so many spouses. And the number of children made him think of various demonic methods. In the demonic sect, there were many methods of using one's own bloodline children to enhance cultivation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:10, Chu Chunga, is this a person of the demon path? Seeing Lu Changsheng's rise, which was filled with legendary hues, moving from a cultivator with a lower-grade spiritual root to his current status, made him seriously doubt if his brother-in-law was a person from the demon path. Under such circumstances, his sister was bound to suffer his oppression. Daoist, what's wrong? The female cultivator in the store heard a thud and felt the temperature inside seem to drop a few notches, giving her the shivers, as she turned to Chu Chunga and inquired. It's nothing, I was just surprised by the stories about Mountain Lord Lu Changsheng of the Bihu language. Is the information here all true? Chu Change's expression was indifferent as he tried to keep his tone steady. Of course, Mountain Lord Lu has a big name, how could these stories be false? The female cultivator immediately spoke out, Daoist, you must be new to the Red Leaf Valley market, right? If you don't believe it, just ask anyone in this market about Mountain Lord Lu and they will be able to tell you a thing or two. All right. Upon hearing this, Chu Change's face darkened slightly as he nodded. Then he tossed a spirit stone, walked out of the shop, and disappeared into the crowd. What a strange person. Seeing this, the female cultivator muttered under her breath, but she happily pocketed the spirit stone. For her, this was a considerable income today, as the man did not bargain and even left a middle-grade spirit stone. Yu Country, Jianghu Marketplace. Lu Changsheng came to the market with his wife and children to have fun. Yu Country and Jianghu Country were neighbors, their customs and habits did not show much variation. If one had to point out the differences, it would be in living habits and architectural styles. Speaking of differences, besides Jiang country, the neighboring countries of Yu included Wu country and Liang country. These two countries had some notable differences. Wu country had many who practiced body cultivation. Normal people almost all cultivated the martial path and were extremely prosperous in that aspect. Liang country, on the other hand, belonged to the demonic sects and had a widely spread way of cultivation that involved using the blood and souls of fierce and demon beasts to merge into the physical body, cultivating by killing and absorbing blood and evil qi. Yu country, Wu country, and Liang country often experienced frictions and wars. Additionally, to the north of Yu country, there was a desert oasis. In the midst of the oasis stood the Black Desert Immortal City. This Immortal City differed from the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Zhuxiao Immortal City, and Dream Immortal City of Jiang country. It was a chaotic and special zone. Sarch * the Novelier. N.E.T. website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The entire city was shrouded in mystery. It was only known that there was a mysterious top-level cultivator overseeing it, influencing many surrounding cultivation nations and providing refuge for many wanted cultivators, loose cultivators, and heretic cultivators seeking sanctuary. If the Azure Phoenix Immortal City attracted countless loose cultivators thanks to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, then the Black Desert Immortal City was formed out of the law of the jungle, where survival of the fittest reigned in chaos. TSKS Lu Changsheng, through reading books on regular days, had a general understanding of the southern wilderness cultivation realm. However, he knew very little about specific circumstances between these countries, since Jiang country, excluding information about its neighboring Yu country and Jin kingdom, rarely had access to info about other nations. Thus, Lu Changsheng took his wife and children from Jinyang sect to Jinyang marketplace and then to other marketplaces, leisurely touring the secular world, walking and seeing, experiencing the customs of Yu country. Qingshan, come with me. That day, after dinner, Lu Changsheng said to his son Lu Qingshan. Having spent a month playing outside with his children, he was ready to use the seed of law on his son to see the effect. And since they had been out for so long, he was also planning to return. Father, what's the matter? Lu Qingshan, who had just finished eating and was considering another 2 bowls, looked up and asked upon hearing his father's words. Just something to discuss with you. Lu Changsheng beckoned. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingshan didn't ask further and stood up to follow Lu Changsheng. Beside them, Lu Miaoge, Lu Miaohuan, and Lu Qingzhu watched but did not mind. They guessed that Lu Changsheng was probably preparing to return and had some matters to entrust to his son before parting. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:11, Lu Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. Inside the room. Dad, is there something you want to talk about? Lu Qingshan closed the door and turned to his father with the question. Qingshan, what are your thoughts about the future? Lu Changsheng looked steadily at his son and asked calmly. The future. Lu Qingshan saw an uncommon serious expression on his father's face. He immediately put away his usual jovial demeanor and pondered for a moment before solemnly saying, the future is too distant and unpredictable. In my view, life is but a series of joys and grievances. Do whatever you want to do. My goal was to break through foundation establishment early and take little Zhu home to visit you, Mom, and maternal grandpa. Now that you and Andy have broken through foundation establishment, I don't need to worry about home. As long as the family is well and little Zhu is happy, I can live a carefree and merry life, fully enjoying my triumphs and revenges. If I truly have any ambitions, it would be to diligently cultivate, and one day, achieve core formation, attain a nascent soul, become famous throughout the southern wilderness, and elevate our family to the status of a nascent soul clan. By that time, my name might even merit its own volume in the family records, enshrining my great achievements and becoming a pride of the family. As Lu Qingshan spoke, his face initially remained serious, but as he went on, a conceited smile crept back onto his face. Your thoughts are indeed unrestrained. Lu Changxing couldn't help but chuckle when he heard what his son had to say. He then picked up the cup of tea on the table, poured a cup for his son, and said softly, "You should know that cultivation is not as leisurely as your sect makes it out to be, drifting on the clouds and soaring on the sword. To truly succeed on the immortal path, one must forge ahead through thorns and tread a lone path across an army of thousands, where one man's victory is built on the bones of many. My son of course knows, but I firmly believe that only with a fearless heart and bold advancement, cutting down all obstacles, can one truly reach the peak." Lu Qingshan declared with a carefree smile, his face showing a hint of reckless confidence. "Qingshan, the way of the sword is sharp, but in your father's view, the way of the sword is not merely about seeking sharpness. It's said that being too rigid can lead to breakage. Sometimes it's wise to hide your edge in the sheath, appearing blunt to others while using the sharpness to drive oneself." Lu Changxing paused for a moment, then continued. From spending time together, he knew his son was not only brash but also flashy, with a heart that longed to show off before others. He understood this very well, but he still hoped his son would know when to hold back. "Dad, I understand what you mean and the reasoning behind it," Lu Qingshan replied as he lifted his cup of tea and downed it in one gulp, grinning, "but life is short, and most of it goes contrary to our wishes. Given that, one should enjoy life while one can, and revel in one's successes while they last. Only in this way can one live truly contentedly. Otherwise, if I were to die tomorrow, wouldn't that be a major loss and deeply frustrating? And as you know my temperament, I simply can't be as steady as you, Dad." By the end of his speech, Lu Qingshan found a word to describe his father after a moment of thought. Although he was only at the 7th level energy refinement, his years at the Jianghu sect had given him some insight. He knew his father must have had some significant opportunities and secrets. Otherwise, how could he have risen from a mere son-in-law in Qingzhou Mountain to his current position relying solely on his talent in the talisman path? It was clear he had always been hiding his skills, keeping secrets. As a son, he understood and even admired his father. But he himself could not do the same. His philosophy in life was to strive for greatness but also to seek joy and freedom, to avenge wrongs and bear grudges. If he considered the gains and losses in everything and hesitated in indecision, it would be suffocating for him. Heh heh. Lu Changxing heard this and shook his head with a slight chuckle. In his mind, he understood what it meant to be a sword cultivator. His son was truly single-minded. Only with such a temperament could one be fearless and daring, wielding a sword and maximizing the power of the sword technique. "All right, since that is the case, your father will give you something that will aid you in the future." As Lu Changxing spoke, he flipped his palm over and a thumb-sized orb of light, entwined with faint golden light, appeared in his hand. Dad, what is this?" Lu Qingshan looked at the seed of law in his father's palm with some astonishment and felt an inexplicable attraction to it. The next moment, he saw the orb of light merge into his brow. Instantly, four golden characters that seemed like iron strokes and elegant as a startled dragon appeared in his mind. Sword charging bull's might. Lu Qingshan looked at the 4 characters in his mind, unsure of what was happening. He saw the orb of light in his mind burst into tiny strands of golden sword chi, shimmering like stars, which filled him with an indescribable thrilling sensation, leaving him feeling ethereal. During this time, the spiritual power within his chi ocean core began to stir gently, with strands of golden light coursing through his dantian and meridians. Throughout this process, his already profound spiritual power was reinforced, and his dantian and meridians expanded. A moment later. Sar the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Boom. An inner stillness settled over Lu Qingshan. His cultivation level had broken through from the 7th level energy refinement to the peak of the 8th level energy refinement. And it seemed as though an eye had opened in his brow. Through this eye, he could clearly see his surroundings. Furthermore, he realized clearly that the advancement of his cultivation level was just a byproduct. What was truly astonishing was that his chi ocean core had nearly doubled in size. Storage of spiritual power, which was previously full, was now reduced to half. This remaining half of spiritual power was even more potent and vigorous than before. The effect is quite noticeable. Lu Changxing observed the changes in his son, raising an eyebrow. The seed of law had effects that could enhance talent, sharpen the senses, ease temperament, elevate character, and compensate for deficiencies. But these effects were not immediate. They would slowly take effect over time, as cultivation improved, temperament aligned, gradually manifesting. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 812, Lu Chuanjin pays respects to uncle. So Lu Changxing, upon seeing his son just receiving a Dao seed and immediately breaking through in cultivation level, increasing his foundation, and birthing divine sense, was slightly surprised. He knew that this improvement might seem small, but say nothing else, in the future, foundation establishment would be easily achievable for Lu Qingshan. This also made Lu Changxing somewhat expectant of his son's future. After all, the greatest effect of this Dao seed was to enhance the sword Dao talent. Through enhancing the sword Dao talent, comprehension, foundation, combat power, cultivation speed, and other aspects, he would be able to make rapid progress solely in the sword Dao. Dad, what is this? Lu Qingshan opened his eyes, a face full of surprised confusion, not yet understanding what was going on. This is a sword Dao seed that your father obtained from abroad, and after use, it can enhance one's sword Dao talent. But this sword Dao seed does not match your father's temperament. S.E.A. the novel _Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Only someone with a proud and valorous spirit, fearless and relentless, can see its effects. So your father thought about it, and decided to give this sword Dao seed to you, hoping that your path to immortality will be smoother, Lu Changxing said with a light chuckle. Dad, you're so good to me, truly my real dad. Do you have any other treasures suitable for me? Lu Qingshan immediately sidled up, his face ingratiating. Lu Changxing. Go, go, go. He pushed away his son with a look of disgust, then took out a jade slip and said, the great Gingjin sword art you are currently cultivating suits you well, but your father happens to have a sword technique cultivation method. Take a look now, it might be of good reference. He was always concerned about his son's cultivation methods. Over these days, he had learned that the sword technique his son was cultivating was called Great Gingjin Sword Art. This sword technique matched perfectly with the Gingjin body constitution. That was why Tianyuan True Immortal was adamant about taking Lu Qingshan as a disciple. To pass down this sword technique. Although this sword technique cultivation method was only of peripheral sect level and not as profound as his own 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. But at this stage, this sword technique truly suited Lu Qingshan more than the 7 luminaries' sword scripture. Because the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture requires balancing the yin and yang, the 5 elements, and 7 attributes. If Lu Qingshan were to cultivate the 7 luminaries' sword scripture now, it could even affect the efficacy of his Gingjin body constitution. Thus, Lu Changxing did not think of having him switch cultivation paths, and showed the 7 luminaries' sword scripture to his son, hoping it would be of some help. Technique? Lu Qingshan, hearing this, took the technique jade slip from his father's hands with a look of surprise. After a while, having read the content of the technique, he gasped and said to Lu Changxing, Dad, you are the heavenly chosen son from the stories, aren't you? Wait, I'm the real heavenly chosen son. Dad, you have all these opportunities and good fortune, but they don't suit you and eventually all fall to me, making wedding clothes for me, ha. I really am a man of great fortune. Dad, rest assured, when I make it big in the future, I definitely won't forget you. I'll duly honor you, capturing all the fairies and demons for you. Lu Qingshan, hands on his hips, laughed uproariously. Naughty boy, you're so grown up and yet you can't behave properly. Lu Changxing, seeing his son's silly face, knocked on his head, causing Lu Qingshan to immediately hold his head in pain. He then let his son ponder over this technique in the coming days. The matter of the technique and the sword Dao seed absolutely must not be made known to others. Dad, don't worry, I'm not stupid. I definitely won't let others find out. Lu Qingshan, mouth askew, said, rubbing his still slightly painful head. He thought to himself if his old dad had also refined his body, such strength in his blow. All right, stop messing around, come on. Lu Chengxing spoke to his son and stood up to open the door. Dad, Mom will definitely secretly ask me what you wanted with me. If I say you gave me some treasures and you didn't give anything to little Zhu, wouldn't that seem biased? Lu Qingshan hurriedly followed, chuckling. That's not for you to worry about. Your father has already prepared everything. Lu Chengxing chuckled lightly, thinking to himself that at least he knew to secure benefits for his sister. Dad, you have more treasures, let me see. Lu Qingshan again made a face of flattery. Roll, 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 go away. Lu Chengxing, with a look of disdain, waved his hand, feeling this son was shameless. Where was there any hint of the typical cold and taciturn demeanor of a sword cultivator? But he felt much more at ease with this kind of temperament. If his son were one of those sword cultivators with a proud and sharp demeanor, looking down on others, his personality would worry him, and he wouldn't feel comfortable giving him the Dao seed. Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Qianxia looked at the sky gradually darkening outside, stepped out of the shop, and headed to the enforcement hall of the market. Qianxia cousin, have you come here for something? A Lu family disciple from Jianghu Mountain, seeing Lu Qianxia, asked aloud. Due to the relationship between Bihu Mountain and Jianghu Mountain, the disciples of the same generation referred to each other as cousins. Mu Jun cousin, I came here to check the marketplace's city entry registry information today, Lu Qianxia said. City entry registry information, is there a robber cultivator or heretic cultivator mixed into the marketplace? The Lu family disciple asked seriously upon hearing this. That's not it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:13, Lu Qianxia pays respect to uncle. Using the Jade Scroll, based on the timestamp, Lu Qianxia immediately identified a name, Zhao Changhe. Zhao Changhe, 9th level energy refinement, Lu Qianxia muttered to himself as he looked at the name. Then, using the Jade Scroll again to check the identity Jade of the other party, he viewed the trajectory of his movements within the marketplace. Upon seeing that the other party had headed straight to his spiritual wine shop after entering the marketplace and then went to the Tian's everything shop after leaving, his gaze sharpened slightly. Thank you, cousin Mu Jun. Lu Quanzhen's expression returned to normal as he gave his thanks with clasped hands. Hee, cousin Qianxia is too polite. This Lu family disciple said cheerfully. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Lu Qianxia bid his farewell and made his way to the Tian's everything shop. Through inquiries, he learned that today a young man in a black robe had come here to purchase information about By Lake Mountain and had acted somewhat oddly. Master Lu, source, web novel. Updated on N0New0, the shopkeeper, a middle-aged female cultivator, looked somewhat flustered as she faced Lu Qianxia. She had not expected selling one piece of information today to trouble the young master from By Lake Mountain enough to prompt his visit. Just act as if nothing happened. Lu Qianxia spoke with a calm demeanor, walked out of the store, paused for a moment to ponder, and then headed to a tavern. After asking around, he went to the 6th floor of the tavern and came to a room, knocking softly and saying, Daoist Chow. Chu Changge inside the room immediately recognized that it was Lu Qianxia outside. He wondered why Lu Qianxia had come to find him, especially since he did not recall giving Lu Qianxia this address. Come in. He lifted his palms slightly, and the door swung open. Daoist Lu, what brings you here to see Zhao? Chu Changge looked at Lu Qianxia with a calm and detached expression. Qianxia pays his respects to uncle. Lu Qianxia bowed deeply as he greeted. You called me what? Chu Changge was taken aback, his hand trembling slightly beneath the black wide robe, his voice sinking. Uncle. Lu Qianxia continued. how did you know about me? Chu Chang'e did not deny it but instead asked aloud. He did not understand how, after seeing this nephew only once and having brief chat, the other side could have discerned his identity. Because uncle came to see me today, and your behavior and mannerisms were a bit off, which led me to this conjecture. Seeing that the other had not denied it, Lu Chuanjun knew he had guessed correctly. This made him pause internally, uncertain about the purpose of the other's visit. After all, when he was handling affairs at Rui Marquis Mansion in the mortal world, he had received a piece of news. His uncle, Chu Chang'e, had not died but had turned to demon cultivation. Oh? Chu Chang'e still did not see where he had given himself away, a smile emerging on his face as he spoke with interest. Tell me, how did you conjecture it? Saying this, he gestured for Lu Chuanjun to sit down, then started to prepare tea. Uncle came today, and his behavior did not seem like he was there to do business but rather to converse with me, which I found quite inexplicable. Lu Chuanjun gently pinched the talisman in his sleeve, then seated himself at the table and said with reverence, during our conversation, I was extra cautious and, through your accent and surname, I came to this suspicion. Accent, surname? Chu Chang'e seemed oblivious to the talisman in his nephew's sleeve, his face full of smiles, beckoning him to continue. That's right, I once lived in Zhoushan Mansion for quite some time, and noticed a certain familiarity in your accent. Then, uncle, you use the surname Zhao, and it happens that my maternal grandmother's surname is Zhao. Also, my mother often reminisces about uncle, telling stories about you to us siblings, so I speculated about your identity. Lu Chuanjun explained as such. It shouldn't be just these reasons, should it? Chu Chang'e looked at his nephew, smiling as he spoke. He felt that just these few conditions were not enough. Today, after I had my suspicions, but was still unsure, I went through the marketplace to check today's city entry records. I saw the fake name Zhao Chang'e that uncle used, and then noticed that uncle came directly towards me, and afterwards purchased information about by Lake Mountain, which gave me some confidence. Lu Chuanjun continued calmly. There must be other reasons too, right? Chu Chang'e still wore a smile. Seeing his nephew infer so much from their simple conversation today brought him a great deal of satisfaction. Truly worthy of being a child of the Chu family, so astute. I was not entirely certain of the matter either, I just felt it was a possibility, so I came over to ask. I did not expect uncle to admit it straightforwardly. This is what Lu Chuanjun said. But if that's so, why were you holding a talisman in your sleeve? Chu Chang'e asked with a smile, his demeanor easygoing and refined. Seeing Lu Quanzhen's expression change, he immediately raised his hand and said, Chuanjun, no need to be nervous, uncle is just asking casually. At this moment, he candidly revealed his own identity. Since his nephew had already recognized him, he had nothing left to hide. I didn't expect uncle to have noticed. Lu Chuanjun felt a chill in his heart, not expecting his uncle to be aware that he was hiding a talisman in his sleeve. This indicated that the other party was definitely not merely at the 9th level energy refinement but had broken through to foundation establishment. Only the divine sense of foundation establishment could possess such keen insight. This revelation struck him with amazement, as he had not expected this uncle whom he had never met to be a foundation establishment great cultivator. Faced with this situation, he knew he couldn't play any tricks in front of the other. He immediately took out the talisman hidden in his sleeve, placed it on the side, and said with a bitter smile, because my mother often mentions uncle, and our family has always been looking for you, but there has been no news. Thinking that we should see each other alive or at least find the body if dead, so in my early years when I was handling affairs in the secular world, I investigated uncle's information and learned that 30 years ago in Zhoushan Mansion, a demon cultivator appeared, and this demon cultivator is very likely to be you, uncle. So, on this trip, I came with some caution in my heart, I hope uncle won't take offense. Lu Chuanjun no longer concealed anything and spoke openly. He knew that he couldn't play games in front of the other and could only bet that the other had no ill intent. A demon cultivator, Chu Chang'e immediately knew it must be the time when he returned home years ago, only to discover that his entire family had been wiped out, which caused the demonic blood within him to erupt. He laughed and said, hee hee, what's there to take offense at? In the cultivation world, it is necessary to be extra cautious. Yes, many years ago, due to some reasons, I walked the demon path and became a demon cultivator. Chu Chang'e admitted candidly. Then his facial features blurred for a moment as his disguise faded and he restored his true appearance. Although he regained his original look, his current appearance and demeanor were quite different from the uncle's temperament Lu Chuanjin had learned about from his mother Chu Zhenqian's descriptions and images. His face was stern, and there was an inexplicable demonic aura between his eyebrows. Jinjin, how has your mother been these past years? Chu Chang'e continued to speak, his voice somewhat hoarse and trembling. He had intended to go directly to Bai Lake Mountain today to see how his sister was doing, and to teach her husband a lesson. But after reading the information and making some simple inquiries, he learned that Lu Changxing had a rather good reputation and was not the kind of energy-draining heretic cultivator or demon cultivator he imagined. In particular, he was famously good to his wives, and his sister Chu Jinjin was one of his official wives, not just a concubine. Consequently, he thought about further contact with his nephew, and to visit Bai Lake Mountain later, not expecting his nephew to take the initiative to come to him. Mother has been quite well these years, it's just that she often mentions uncle, as well as my grandparents. CTH novel, F. Iyer. Enter website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And then these past years I've caused mother some worry, Lu Chuanjin began, slowly voicing his mother's situation. He roughly guessed that his uncle must have achieved success in cultivation, which is why he came back to visit his mother. Because from his mother's stories, he knew that the siblings were very close, and that his uncle was always especially caring towards her, his sister. Faced with this, he also played the familial card as much as possible to stabilize his uncle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 814, The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Gu. Red Leaf Valley Market. In a room of a restaurant, Chu Chang'e listened to his nephew's recount of their life over the years, the family situation, and the condition of his sister, Chu Jinjin. Learning that after so many years his sister's nature was still carefree, naive, and cheerful as before, a hint of a smile emerged on his stern face, and the malevolent and evil chi between his brows softened considerably. Especially when he heard his nephew helplessly express that he and his siblings were being urged to marry by their mother, Chu Jinjin, and he had no choice but to run here to manage the business, he couldn't help but chuckle. Chuanjin, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen. Chu Chang'e muttered the names of his 4 nephews and nieces. He knew that among the 4 nephews, Lu Chuanjin and Lu Caizhen possessed spiritual roots, while Lu Yuzhen and Lu Huaizhen were without, merely mortals. Sir the Novel Fire, net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. But the spiritual roots of Lu Chuanjin and another were poor, possessing only 8th grade spiritual root and 9th grade spiritual root. Chuanjin, what are your plans for the future? What do you desire? Chu Chang'e asked gently. Plans? Desires? Lu Chuanjin paused upon hearing his uncle's words, unsure if the other was testing him or was sincere. After a moment of thought, he said, I am quite satisfied with my current life. My only hope is that in the future I can break through to foundation establishment so that I too have the ability to protect my family, protect my mother, brothers, and sisters. If I were to think further ahead, perhaps I would hope to explore the world after achieving foundation establishment. Lu Chuanjin said. Although these words were not his complete thoughts, they were truly from his heart. Break through foundation establishment, go out and see the world. Chu Chang'e nodded slightly. From the chat just now, he could see that his nephew was a very clever and opinionated person. These words might not be completely genuine, but they did contain quite a bit of truth. He understood this. Having met only a short while ago, how could the other completely trust him? Perhaps this nephew was only chatting with him because he was apprehensive of Chu Chang'e, unaware of his real situation. He whispered, with your 8th grade spiritual root, it won't be easy to break through foundation establishment. True, but I believe in making efforts. Lu Quanzhen's expression was firm as he seriously said, my father only had a 9th grade spiritual root, but he still became a foundation establishment cultivator. With the support of our family now, as long as I work hard, there is hope to break through Foundation establishment. Lu Changsheng, when Chu Chang'e heard this, he looked at his nephew's determined expression, slightly startled. From information he naturally knew of his cheap brother-in-law's situation, and therefore suspected the other had turned to the demon path, the heretical path. After all, for a cultivator with a lower-grade spiritual root to hope for Foundation establishment was exceedingly difficult, let alone 9th-grade spiritual root. He asked, "Do you respect your father a lot?" "Yes, my father might have some shortcomings, but he is very kind to our mother, to us siblings." Lu Chuanzhen recounted some family issues and his father, Lu Chengsheng's matters. Like scrimping and saving, using cultivation resources for their stepmother and mother, laying foundations for himself and others. Mostly establishing the family for their sake, even if the family was always in deficit, to ensure they had sufficient cultivation resources and welfare benefits. As for his father's marriage and concubine matters, as a son, he felt it inappropriate to comment further. Listening to these words prompted Chu Chang'e to show a thoughtful look, somewhat eager to meet this cheap brother-in-law of his. His instincts told him that his brother-in-law surely had a big secret. "Chuanzhen, with your 8th-grade spiritual root, it will be difficult for you to break through Foundation establishment in the future. This elixir medicine is called Heaven Replenishing Elixir. It has the effect of refining pure cultivators' spiritual roots. Take this elixir and it will enhance your spiritual root, aiding you." Chu Chang's hand revealed a black jade porcelain bottle, which he handed to Lu Chuanzhen. He knew his nephew didn't trust him yet. So, he planned to let the other drop their guard by offering benefits. Moreover, the biggest barrier currently preventing his nephew from breaking through Foundation establishment was his spiritual root. Since that was the case, by enhancing his spiritual root, wouldn't that solve the problem? Heaven Replenishing Elixir, pure spiritual root effect. Lu Chuanzhen, hearing this, looked at the porcelain bottle, his mental spirit shocked, unsure whether to believe these words. Even though he had never heard of the Heaven Replenishing Elixir, he knew such elixir medicines capable of enhancing spiritual roots were extremely precious heavenly and earthly treasures. Once news spread, who knew how much chaos, bloodshed, and even coveting by nascent soul immortals it might incite. His uncle was actually able to produce such a rare elixir medicine, which made him inherently suspicious. But this elixir was obtained by chance. I'm not entirely sure of its efficacy or nature. Dare you try it? Chu Chang'e said with a smirk. Since uncle intends it, I am naturally willing to try. Lu Chuanzhen thought for a moment and responded respectfully. He felt that the other had no reason to harm him. If he wanted to kill him, he could just act directly. Unless the other intended to control him through the elixir, thus targeting by Lake Mountain. But that seemed unlikely. Moreover, he dared to come over this time, having some preparation. It was the substitute talisman given by his father, Lu Changsheng, which could be activated to escape in any danger. He took the porcelain bottle, opened it, and poured out an elixir about the size of a longan, radiating a shimmering luster. The elixir medicine seemed to possess life, its glow flickering now and then, currents of light autonomously flowing. Heaven Replenishing Elixir. Lu Chuanzhen gazed at the elixir medicine in his hand, his pupils constricting slightly. Based on the appearance alone, it was evident that this elixir medicine was extraordinary, different from the usual kinds. Immediately, he swallowed the elixir medicine. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 815, The Wealthy and Boorish Uncle. Phoenix Goo. Boom. The moment Lu Chuanzhen took the elixir medicine, an extremely mysterious sensation immediately surged through his body. Spiritual root. His spiritual root was throbbing. A mysterious force was causing his spiritual root to pulsate. Faced with this situation, Lu Chuanzhen hurriedly sat cross-legged without moving and began to assimilate the effects of the elixir medicine. He. Chu Chang'e watched his nephew acting so resolutely and decisively, without any hesitation or delay. A smile appeared on his face. He said the medicinal effects and properties of the elixir medicine were all intentionally misleading. He wanted to see how his nephew would react. At this moment, seeing his nephew behave in such a way, he was very satisfied. On one hand, he was satisfied with his nephew's trust in him. On the other hand, he was satisfied that his nephew acted decisively. After all, the cultivation world highly disapproved of indecisive characters. His own nephew was not only careful and intelligent, recognizing him as an uncle through simple conversation, but also had a stable character. Even when he discovered a hidden talisman, his expression changed only slightly before returning to normal. Now, facing the elixir medicine given by himself, his nephew's decisiveness, without any hesitation, filled him with relief. He believed that his nephew would have no difficulty in achieving foundation establishment in the future. As for core formation, that would depend on his fate. However, when that time came, he, as an uncle, would not mind helping a bit more if he could. Time passed bit by bit. After a long while, Lu Qiuanjun opened his eyes and could distinctly feel that his spiritual root had improved. However, he himself was not clear by how much. Chu Chang'e stepped forward, placed his palm on his nephew's shoulder, and checked the condition of his spiritual root. At this moment, Chu Chang'e noticed a spirit talisman within his nephew's sea of consciousness at the brow chakra. This talisman was extraordinary, probably reaching the 3rd rank. He did not touch the talisman. He realized it must be the life-saving talisman of his nephew. As for how it came into being, knowing his brother-in-law's reputation as a second-order top-level talisman master, he guessed it must have been given by him. He was pleased that someone could give such a rare spirit talisman to his nephew. Not bad, 4th grade spiritual root. Chu Chang'e withdrew his hand and said with a light chuckle. 4th grade spiritual root. Lu Qiuanjun was shocked upon hearing this. He knew that a 4th grade spiritual root was already a middle grade top-tier spiritual root, just one step away from becoming a high-quality spiritual root. With an 8th grade spiritual root, he could not guarantee a breakthrough in foundation establishment in the future. But now, with his own 4th grade spiritual root, he was confident that he could surely succeed in foundation establishment. Qiuanjun thanks uncle. Lu Qiuanjun looked at Chu Chang'e in front of him, took a deep breath, and respectfully bowed. At this moment, he knew his uncle was no ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. An ordinary foundation establishment cultivator could never produce such a level of elixir medicine. Nor could they easily give such a rare elixir medicine to him. Hee, what are you thanking for? Just take this fruit as well. Chu Chang'e then took out a fist-sized purple golden fruit. It had patterns resembling dragon scales and was emanating a rich and fragrant scent. Uncle, one should not accept rewards without merit. With the earlier heaven-replenishing elixir, Qiuanjun already doesn't know how to thank you, let alone accept such a precious spirit fruit. Lu Qiuanjun spoke respectfully. He did not recognize the fruit in front of him. But he could tell from its quality that it was no ordinary item. At this moment, he truly didn't understand what his uncle was up to, giving him things so generously upon their first meeting. He had not even recovered from the shock of having a 4th grade spiritual root and wanted to experience the effects through cultivation. This is an introductory gift from your uncle, just a token of affection, please accept it. Chu Chang'e asserted, his voice carrying an undeniable firmness. Thank you, uncle. Lu Qiuanjun, hearing this, took a deep breath, took the spirit fruit, bowed deeply, and then took a bite. But the dragon scale fruit was very hard. He was not able to bite through it. This spirit fruit is known as the dragon scale fruit. It has marrow cleansing and hair furrowing effects, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation. To consume it, you need to crack it open with an instrument made of gunmetal. Chu Chang'e softly explained and took out a small golden hammer, tapping it gently on the dragon scale fruit, causing the scales to fall off. Dragon scale fruit? Marrow cleansing and hair furrowing, enhances cultivation level, and solidifies the foundation? Lu Qiuanjun, upon hearing this, looked at the dragon scale fruit in his hand with a doubtful expression and asked, Uncle, do I need to return to my home's practice room and enter closed-door cultivation to consume it? Either way. Chu Chang'e said indifferently. CTH novel, F. Ire. And a website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Hearing his uncle say this, Lu Chuanjin did not ask further. After a moment, when the dragon scale fruit was completely cracked open, it turned into a fruit glowing with a golden sheen. Lu Chuanjin didn't hesitate. Under Chu Change's watchful eyes, he consumed the fruit. The fruit was fragrant and melted in the mouth. Then it turned into a majestic and pure power that surged into every limb and every vein. At this moment, Lu Chuanjin only felt a warm sensation all over his body. But when the dragon scale fruit was completely consumed, this essence of mighty power swept through his body like a towering giant wave. Boom, 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 inside Lu Quanzhen's body, it was like a volcanic eruption, rumbling loudly, his body continuously trembling, and filthy blood and sweat oozing out from his pores. Chuanjin, the process will be a bit painful. Chu Chang'e said softly, flicking out small flags, forming a prohibition in the room to prevent too much disturbance. After all, although the room was equipped with a prohibition, it was merely a simple soundproofing, and not very effective. Buzz, 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 Lu Chuanjin didn't speak, nor could he, his face showed a look of pain. He felt every inch of his skin and every piece of flesh undergoing an indescribable transformation, an extreme pain. Despite the pain, he could clearly feel his physical body growing stronger, expelling impurities, and making his meridians and bones much tougher. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:16, The Wealthy Uncle. Phoenix Gu. At the same time, his bottleneck at the 6th level energy refinement was also breached in that moment. Effortlessly, as naturally as water flowing into a channel. After breaking through to the 7th level energy refinement, his cultivation level continued to climb. 7th level energy refinement peak. SEA the Novel Fire. And a website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. 8th level energy refinement. Boom. In a short while, his cultivation level had broken through to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, this cultivation level continued to rise, almost reaching the peak of 8th level energy refinement. In that moment, even Lu Chuanjin himself was astonished. He felt the effects of the dragon scale fruit were too exaggerated. It had allowed him to break directly from the 6th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. Moreover, he could distinctly feel that, compared to the rise in cultivation level, the main enhancements provided by the dragon scale fruit were to his physical body, meridians, bones, and foundation. He opened his eyes and saw a stench surrounding him. Beside him, Chu Chang'e gently lifted his hand, and a breeze dispersed the foul stench and impurities from Lu Quanzhen's body, turning them into flying ash. Chuanjin thanks uncle. At this moment, Lu Chuanjin was almost at a loss for words. Facing his uncle, he sincerely knelt down and paid his respects. If he had had any suspicion or doubt about this uncle before, the heaven-replenishing elixir and the dragon scale fruit had dispelled all such feelings. There simply was no need. If the other party truly had ill intentions against him, why would they spend such a great cost? The elixir and fruit were indeed priceless treasures, impossible to measure with spirit stones. Someone as insignificant as him was definitely not worth such a great cost pursued by the other party. So it was purely out of kinship. Because of his mother, that he was treated so kindly. Chuanjin, no need to be so formal. Chu Chang'e showed a smile on his face, sensing genuine sincerity in his nephew's words. He knew at this moment his nephew had come to trust him. He then asked, "Your mother, Yuzhen, Caizhen, Huaizhen, do they usually stay at Bai Lake Mountain?" "Yes, mother usually spends her time at Bai Lake Mountain and seldom goes out. If uncle wishes to see mother, I can invite her to stay in Red Leaf Valley Market for a while. She would certainly be very happy to learn that uncle is still alive." Lu Chuanjin said, his tone becoming more intimate as he spoke to Chu Chang'e. "You country. In a courtyard. What is going on?" Lu Changsheng was utterly confused. He had just felt a profound and mysterious fluctuation, immediately realizing that a child with a 4th grade spiritual root had been born. But the next moment, he realized he should not have any children being born right now. Then, after checking through the system, he saw no birth of a newborn. This left him very confused. Then, just as he was pondering over what was happening, thinking it was a misconception, suddenly another wave of mana surged out of nowhere, forming a droplet of liquid mana. This mana was not much, but it was the most mana bonus he had ever received. Even more than when his son, Lu Qingshan, broke through from the 7th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement. This? Lu Changsheng was very confused. Changsheng, what's wrong? Beside him, Lu Miaoga noticed her husband looked troubled and immediately expressed concern. It's nothing, just thinking about something. Lu Changsheng shook his head as he spoke. But his curiosity could not be suppressed, claiming he had a sudden spark on the talisman path and needed to digest it. Faced with this reason, Lu Miaoga, Lu Miaohuan, and others did not press further. Soon after, Lu Changsheng went to his room and began checking on his children's conditions through the system. After a long time, name, Lu Chuanjin, lifespan, 28 of 111, talent, 4th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 8th level energy refinement, talent, management compatibility, 61%, what's going on? How did Quanzhen's spiritual root become 4th grade, and how did he suddenly break through from 6th level to 8th level energy refinement? Lu Changsheng looked at his son's attribute panel, completely baffled. If it were just a breakthrough from the 6th level to the 7th level, he could understand. After all, it was normal for Lu Chuanjin, who had been at a bottleneck for many years, to make a breakthrough. But the problem was, not only did the cultivation level break through 2 levels, but the spiritual root also upgraded from 8th grade to 4th grade. Could Chuanjin have encountered some situation, some fortuitous event? But isn't he still managing business at the Red Leaf Valley market right now? And the heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance a spiritual root are at least 3rd rank, extremely rare. Given Quanzhen's situation, it should be very difficult for him to come into contact with such items. Lu Changsheng was very puzzled and really wanted to go home to see what was going on with this son. But at this moment, he could only suppress the curiosity and confusion in his heart. When he returned to the courtyard, the sky had already darkened. Lu Changsheng called his wife to bed, talking about going back. Hearing this, the 2 women also knew that they had been out for quite a while. They suggested that once this trip was nearly over, they would send the children back to the Jianyang sect and then start their journey home. Jin Kingdom, 5 Poisons Cult. Inside a magnificent hall. Nangong Mili, in a purple palace dress, her figure graceful and enchanting, gazed at the dark golden bowl covered in patterns in her hands. Within the bowl, there was a goo resembling a silkworm, its body golden and translucent, twinkling brilliantly. This goo insect had streams of resplendent luster flowing through it, dreamy and illusory, as if a silkworm cocoon. Yet, amidst the luminous diffusion, it constantly transformed its appearance and shape, at moments resembling a purple butterfly emerging from its cocoon, at others a mythical phoenix born of fire, mysterious and magnificent, dazzling and enchanting. Phoenix goo, Nangong Mili watched the goo, her emotions swirling complexly. When she first heard about the Lockhart goo from her disciple Meng Xiaochan, she immediately applied to the sect for a phoenix goo, hoping to use it to neutralize the effects of the Lockhart goo. But phoenix goo was rare, and the only one in the sect had been used by the 5 Poisons sect leader for healing. Because of this, she waited 10 years, only today obtaining a newly refined phoenix goo. Lu Changsheng. Nangong Mili's sensually red lips parted slightly, and in her mind appeared the image of a handsome man. For these 10 years, she had been trying her best to forget Lu Changsheng. Due to the Lockhart Gus effects, which made one uncontrollably develop romantic feelings for the host. These feelings of love would ferment over time and interaction, growing stronger and stronger. Until one was hopelessly in love, wholeheartedly devoted, even losing oneself. For these 10 years, although she had stayed away from Lu Changsheng and tried to suppress her feelings, the past interactions, the misty sky bead inside her body, the golden core charm, her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, all made it impossible for her to completely forget him. At this moment, she even doubted whether her feelings and impressions of Lu Changxing came from the Lockhart Gu or were genuinely from her heart. Real yet false. When false is real, real becomes false, false becomes real. Who can distinguish? I, Nangong Mili, even if I were to like a man, would not be overly sentimental and sensitive. Nangong Mili's expression turned cold and indifferent, her phoenix eyes clear and piercing, as she cast aside the chaotic thoughts in her mind. She then sent a message to her disciple Meng Xiaochan, stating that she intended to undergo closed-door cultivation, asking her to take good care of her daughter Nangong Yaoyao during this time. When mentioning her daughter Nangong Yaoyao, a radiant, maternal smile immediately appeared on her charming and bewitching face. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:17. This guru doesn't seem very reliable. Jianghu sect, outside the mountain gate. Qingshan, take good care of your sister. Little Zhu, your parents will come to visit you whenever they have time. Lu Changxing bade farewell to his children. Were it not for the unusually deep master-disciple relationship in the cultivation world, and Tianyuan True Immortal's decent treatment of his children, he would have wanted to take his children back home. Sarch * than a fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. It wasn't that he was opposed to them becoming disciples and cultivating within the immortal sects. It was really because traveling from Bai Lake Mountain to Jianghu's sect was too far and inconvenient, leaving him worried. Beside him, Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan also watched their children with faces filled with reluctance. Dad, Mom, Auntie, don't worry, I will definitely take good care of my sister, Lu Qingshan said with a determined and serious expression. Perhaps it was the effect of the seed of law, but when he was serious, his brows had an added sharpness. Daddy, Mommy, Auntie, Lu Qingzu's eyes brimmed red, veiled with mist, filled with reluctance. Sigh, seeing his daughter like this, Lu Changxing sighed in his heart, holding his daughter feeling very heartbroken. He knew that Tianyuan True Immortal was mainly taking his son as a disciple. The daughter was merely incidental. That was why he had previously asked his daughter whether she wanted him to wait here for Tianyuan True Immortal to return, to see if he could take his daughter back home. But his daughter could not bear to leave her brother, Lu Qingshan, alone at the sect. Little Zhu, be good. Lu Miaoge, deeply reluctant as well, held her daughter. Qingshan, Qingzhu. As the family said their farewells, unable to part, a languid and alluring voice sounded. A giant gourd descended from the sky, upon which a mature, voluptuous woman sat wearing a bright red, ornate dress. Her ample curves fully conveyed a ripe, lazy charm, holding a red wine gourd in her hand, making her exquisitely beautiful face appear flushed and all the more enticing. Master! Master! Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu, seeing the woman, promptly called out. Greetings, True Immortal. Lu Miaoge recognized the identity of the woman in the red dress. It was indeed their children's master, Tianyuan True Immortal. Master, True Immortal? Lu Changxing was somewhat surprised to see the woman. He hadn't expected his children's master to have such a hedonistic appearance. No wonder his son said that this master didn't care for managing matters, often absent from the sect. Others aside, just the appearance of the woman hardly seemed reliable, nor did she resemble a nascent soul immortal in demeanor. However, despite his thoughts, he still bowed respectfully. Greetings, True Immortal. Greetings, True Immortal. Lu Miaohuan also quickly composed herself to show her respects. She was a bit shocked that her children's master looked like this. Although she had never met a nascent soul immortal, and scarcely seen even foundation establishment cultivators, in her subconscious mind, she had always believed that nascent soul immortals were supposed to be transcendent beings with an appearance of deep wisdom. Now, seeing her son's master shattered that image. With a posture languorous from intoxication, not to mention, her voluptuous, milky white legs openly crossed, creating an inviting curve at her hips. Her long black hair was casually loose, with a few strands likely wet and disarrayed from wine, and her clothing a bit untidy, showing off her delicate collarbones and flushed, fair skin. To say this was a luxurious, indulgent lady of high stature, she could understand. But to say this was a nascent soul immortal, master, this is my dad, this is my mom, and this is my auntie, whom you have met before. They came to Jianghu sect to visit me. Lu Qingshan, facing his master, introduced them openly. Although he also felt his master was not quite dependable, hardly resembling other core formation highbrows, over the years, he had grown accustomed to it. Greetings to the three Daoists. Tianyuan True Immortal, hearing this, descended from the giant gourd, her lazily casual manner transforming into a dignified and majestic presence, nodding lightly as a gesture. She then looked somewhat surprised towards Lu Miaoga and said, Lu Daoist, you're planning to go back? Replying to the True Immortal, my husband, my sister, and I came to see Qingshan and Qingzhu. Now that we see they are well, we plan to return. Lu Miaoga, graceful and gentle, her demeanor like flowing water, bowed slightly. We are grateful for your efforts over the years. Since Qingshan and Qingzhu are under my tutelage, I will naturally cultivate them well. Lu Daoist can rest assured, Tianyuan True Immortal replied, since the three Daoists are here, why not come inside for some tea and rest a while before leaving? Since that's the case, well, trouble the True Immortal. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga exchanged a glance, nodding and responding. Subsequently, the six of them entered Jianghu's sect and proceeded to Tianyuan Peak. After arriving at the Grand Hall on the peak, Tianyuan True Immortal briefly talked about Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu's situation over the years and asked how the three had come and planned to return. From the conversation, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga could feel that the True Immortal's invitation for a casual chat was purely out of politeness, considering the children, and not really from any genuine interest in conversation. Faced with this, after a few brief exchanges, the three courteously bid their farewells. At that moment, Lu Changsheng remembered the 3 jars of liquor he had made using the spiritual eye spring water stored in his storage bag. He took them out of the storage bag and said, I see the True Immortal enjoys drinking on regular days. This is a small token of my own making, please accept. Oh. Yan Yuan, hearing this, looked at the liquor before her, slightly surprised. Then, with a smile, she nodded, since that's the case, thank you for this kind gesture, Lu Daoist. If you encounter any troubles in your country, you can use my token to contact the Jianghu sect base and send messages to me. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 8:18, This true person seems unreliable. Although she didn't value the wine, Lu Changsheng had expressed goodwill toward her, and she, a nascent soul immortal of great renown, naturally wouldn't take advantage of others. Many thanks, True Immortal. Lu Changsheng and 2 others bowed to express their thanks. Afterward, the 3 of them said a word to their children and then left Jianghu sect, preparing to board a spiritual vessel to return to Jiang country. Lu Changsheng, Lu Miaoga. Yan Yuan muttered to herself after Lu Changsheng and his companions had departed. She had once met Lu Miaoga. Although the impression was not deep, there was still some memory. It was clear that the other party had changed drastically from those years past. Not only had she broken through to foundation establishment, but the transformation in her appearance and demeanor was also like heaven and earth reversed, her aura gentle as water, embracing all things, tranquil, and pure. If she hadn't encountered her in such a situation, she would hardly believe this was the Qi refinement junior cultivator she had once seen. As for Lu Changsheng, she didn't feel much. After all, it was their first meeting. Although he was strikingly handsome and possessed an ethereal demeanor, making a good impression on her senses, that was all. Instead, she felt that her disciples' parents were both so gorgeous, by comparison, they slightly paled. She didn't dwell on it further. Her round, oval face with jade-like luster returned to a lazy, casual demeanor, glancing at the 3 jars of wine that Lu Changsheng had brought. Although she paid little attention to this wine, her wine gourd was an exotic treasure. It not only had the ability to independently store different wines, but it also had the effect of nurturing and fermenting them. It could enhance the wine, making it increasingly rich and elevated in grade. Pop. 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 As the wine jar was opened, a rich and fragrant aroma immediately filled the hall, seemingly enriching the spiritual energy in the air. Is this second-tier spiritual wine? Yan Yuan looked at the clear green, crystalline wine in the jar with a hint of surprise on her face. She hadn't expected the wine Lu Changxing gifted to be quite good. She picked up a jar of wine and directly tilted her head back to take a big gulp without any care for appearances. Then, smacking her lush lips, she said, "Too bland, too sweet, what kind of wine is this? It's like what women drink, simply wasting materials." However, this person's wine brewing skills are indeed rare. This wine is almost a second-order superior. If it is well preserved and fermented, it might even reach quasi-third order. While talking, she took out her own wine gourd and drew the wine from the 3 jars in front of her. Being able to be classified as quasi-third order was good enough to be considered fine wine for her. After all, top-tier wine masters were extremely rare. Once reaching the second order, advancing further became exceptionally difficult. Even she herself was only a second-tier top-level wine master. After doing this, she contentedly went to check on her 2 disciples. Although she was often away and didn't manage matters much, she still spent time instructing and nurturing her 2 disciples. 8th level energy refinement? Yan Yuan, upon seeing the siblings standing on the mountain peak, immediately sensed something amiss. Her disciple had apparently broken through to the 8th level of energy refinement. Although this level of cultivation wasn't impressive in her eyes, she distinctly remembered that when she had left, this disciple had just broken through to the 7th level. It had only been a year and a half, and he had already advanced from the 7th to the 8th level. It seems my disciple's parents are quite generous. A smile appeared on Yan Yuan's exceedingly beautiful face, not taking it too seriously. To allow a rapid breakthrough from the 7th to the 8th level of energy refinement, many elixir medicines could achieve this. The reason she did not do this was not to encourage premature advancement. She hoped to let her disciple advance step by step steadily. Because cultivation is also about cultivating the heart. Without the mind keeping up with the level of cultivation, bottlenecks would make life unbearable in the future. Even possibly, too much smoothness early on could cause a failure when facing bottlenecks, leading to a complete collapse. Such cases were common, she had seen too many of them. Then, she went up to assess the siblings' cultivation progress. After leaving the Jinyang sect, Lu Changxing and his wife Lu Miaoge, along with Lu Miaohuan, steered their spirit boat towards Ancient Moon Immortal City. Because the spiritual vessel to Azure Phoenix Immortal City from Jinyang Marketplace still required a 4-month wait, they had planned their itinerary early and were prepared to head to Ancient Moon Immortal City to board the spiritual vessel to Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Along the way, both Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan still had traces of reluctance to part on their faces. Especially Lu Miaoge, who had a hint of self-reproach on his face, believing that had she not agreed initially, her children would not have apprenticed so far away. Faced with this, Lu Changxing immediately spoke up to comfort her, saying that Qing Shan was very sensible, there was no need to worry, and that once he made his breakthrough in core formation, it would be easier to visit his children. Once one became a nascent soul cultivator, one could transform into a rainbow and travel amidst the 9 heavens gang wind. By then, whether in terms of combat power or speed of travel, it would be a qualitative change, and he wouldn't need to rely on taking a spiritual vessel. Moreover, if his children really missed home then, he could also bring them back to live anytime. Wife, I feel that Tian Yuan True Immortal is a bit too carefree, lacking the demeanor of a true immortal. It seems somewhat unreliable and offbeat. Will Qing Shan and Qing Zhu under this true immortal's guidance also become so carefree? At this, Lu Miaohuan whispered. Although it was not good to speak ill of a true immortal behind their back, she really wasn't at ease about Tian Yuan True Immortal, worried he might lead her children astray. Cough cough, perhaps this is what a true high-level cultivator is like, unbothered by trifles. In many stories, wandering high-level cultivators are just like this. Lu Changxing gently coughed twice and said. He didn't have any rose-colored glasses towards nascent soul immortals, thinking they should be a certain way. Like Xiahou Wuwa, this Patriarch Xiahou, a false core immortal, when faced with death, was still panicked and discomposed. Like Hong Lian, still a nascent soul true lord. Yet, in his presence, she showed no demeanor of a true lord. Thus Lu Changxing felt that nascent soul immortals were just like that, merely having higher cultivation, and there was no need to regard them as some highly revered god or goddess. Sar the novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. It was normal to have a bit of free-spiritedness. However, he did think this Tian Yuan true immortal, when serious, appeared like a fully ripened, dignified, and stately noble woman, yet upon her appearance, she held a bit of the unruliness of a bad girl, giving people a sense of extreme contrast. As everyone knows, it is in these contrasts that a woman is the most alluring. I wonder what Tian Yuan true immortal's spiritual root talent is like, Lu Changxing couldn't help but ponder internally. If he could establish a closer bond, allowing her to take good care of his children, he as a father would be willing to make that sacrifice. Yet, thinking about how he was still a mere foundation establishment weakling, pursuing a core formation true immortal still posed quite a challenge. Alas, cultivation, I must devote myself to cultivation when I get back. Lu Changxing let out a sigh and steered the spirit boat rapidly towards the direction of ancient Moon Immortal City. Red Leaf Valley Marketplace. A spirit boat touched down. Mother, go slowly. Lu Chuanjun led his own mother and younger siblings off the spirit boat. He had previously taken benefits from his uncle, knowing his uncle wanted to see his mother and his younger siblings. But thinking of his uncle as a demonic path cultivator, it was problematic to bring him towards Bai Lake Mountain. Moreover, Chu Chang'e himself did not want his sister to know he was still alive. His return this time was not for a siblings' reunion but simply to check on his sister's well-being, hoping she could have a better life. Thus, he opted to watch from a distance or observe his sister through another identity, which should suffice. After pondering, Lu Chuanjun suggested finding a reason to invite his mother and younger siblings to play in Red Leaf Valley Marketplace. By then, Chu Chang'e would join them for a meal and chat under the guise of a good friend. Is this Red Leaf Valley Marketplace? Lu Yuzhen and Lu Huaizhen, looking at the marketplace before them, curiously said. Although they weren't young, due to having no spiritual roots, they had never been to Red Leaf Valley Market before. That's correct, this is the Cultivation Marketplace. Yuzhen, Huaizhen, whatever you want to buy later, just go ahead, and mother will pay for it. Chu Zhenjin, wearing a pale pink dress, her face gentle and affable, spoke softly. Now nearly 50, but due to consuming preserving youth pills and practicing lifespan extending cultivation techniques, her appearance remained youthful, looking merely in her late 20s, completely not showing that she was a mother of 4 children. At this time, together with her 4 children, she appeared just like an older sister. The 4 entered the marketplace under Lu Quanzhen's lead. At that moment, on the veranda of a tavern near the entrance of the market, Chu Chang'e, dressed in a black flowing robe, like a refined scholar, suddenly stood up, gazing towards his sister. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible.